All right, y'all. Welcome to round one of the Monroeville, Pennsylvania 3v3 for the One Piece card game. Once again, I'm Steven, aka the True Champion Steven. I'm joined by the wonderful Sebastian, aka Risu the Squirrel.
Hello, everybody.
It's gonna be a good one, I think. Round one. I think we've got some. I heard a whispers of like katakuri. I heard whispers of smoker. I don't know what exactly the matchup we're gonna be seeing is, but I'm sure these two teams are going to be an electric start to this event today.
Oh man, the two newbie colors I like to call it, right? Black got introduced set two, yellow got introduced this set, and they've been just trying to slowly fill their card pools up until like they actually have like complete strategies. Especially black. Any black deck right now is stuck between either playing a navy package or CP9 package, and it looks like we're gonna go with the Whitebeard versus Law. You want to explain what's going on here on the screen, Steven?
Yeah, so if you guys notice, we have the two teams. We have Polly to the Moon on the left and Team KTD on the right. Basically, of those three characters you see above them, every single character is playing its corresponding character on the right. So if the Zoro's on the far left on the left, they're playing against the Katakuri on the right. The Law's in the middle, they're going to be playing against the Zoro. And then we have the Whitebeard here for Polly the Moon playing against the Law from the other team, Team KTD. Really excited to see a team made up of Katakuri, Smoker, and Law. And then opposite, we have the three giants, Zoro, Law, and Whitebeard. This is going to be super interesting to see how this shakes up.
Yeah, they can't. They said they just agreed that red is the best color, and they're just going to play what they feel is the top three decks. Whereas, the team KTD is definitely playing the decks that could potentially answer the meta in some way. Katakuri always has a strong matchup, and then Smoke is strong. But we're just gonna go into what Whitebeard's doing. Lob played Chopper, and we're searching Ezo, and I think we find Whitebeard Pirates off the Ezo. Nice.
So this is the version that I would say is all in on Whitebird Pirates. They want to search that one of the 9-drop as consistently as possible every single game, so that way they can guarantee pull it off, or get any other copies of the one of Marco, the 4-drop one. So super exciting to see. Sometimes you'll see people playing like Nami instead of that Whitebeard option card there because they want to have Straw Hat cards in their deck to search more quickly. Things like Radical Beam could be the one of they're hunting for. Things like Guard Point for late game defense could be the thing they're hunting for. But right now we're seeing, I think, just all in Wipe Your Pirates. Wouldn't be surprised if we see some Thatches and some other fun stuff going on in this deck.
With that said, like you said, if they're all in on the Whitebeard stuff like that, and more than likely means they're not playing a lot of the Straw Hat stuff, and that includes Rush Luffy, the unblockable Rush Luffy, which actually is a really important card, or it's an important card against Law in particular. Law plays a ton of blockers, and being able to just ignore all those blockers for the investment of a couple Dawn is kind of huge. So potentially not having access to that could just decide that match here and there, I think. Or maybe not that extreme, but it's definitely something scary.
Now, something I really want to see this Law player going for here, instead of setting up their board for like a potential turn 3 shambles, I want to see them going for as much damage with their leader as possible. And here we get the best of both worlds in the form of Brook. I'm a big fan of being as aggressive as you can with your Law, especially into Whitebeard, because giving them as little time as possible with their life is huge, because the defense of this deck is so strong. You need them to burn through it more quickly than otherwise you're able to. And
Um,
Law's ability to aggress is just so good.
yeah, no, I can't agree more. Like anytime I try to like tell somebody how to, or at least my theology or whatever against Whitebeard is turn 2, just swing for 8 every time. If they're tapped out and don't have any Dawn up for a guard point, just attack for 8. If you, like you said, if you force them to take an extra early life that they weren't planning to, it really comes to bite them in the butt later when they're trying to play the 9 gate onto the board, because they won't be able to save that last life as quickly as they really want to.
There we see the 4 cost vanilla 6,000 for Whitebeard coming down. Again, the pressure is starting to build on this deck. The curve is just so strong having these powerful bodies. But here we're seeing the 6K swing with Law. I would love to see this followed up by like a 6K swing with Brook. Or is
Oh, a
that?
Brook. This is
Yeah,
the
that's the Lawbrook. So we have some fun little film engine here in the Law deck, being able to accelerate, I believe, certain supernovas or Straw Hat Crew cards. I believe
Mhm.
that played the starter deck Zora, which is a 6K attacker, which this
Yep,
board looks so crazy cracked at dealing so much damage as possible to this Whitebeard. It's possible that he's on 0 life as early as his next turn.
that's true, and especially if they commit all their Dawn this turn. This is gonna be their 6th Dawn turn, coming up, and so they could potentially play, another vanilla, or they Thatch comes down this turn. So we took the leader attack into a Law, so we're down to 2 life on the Law side, and we're blocking the Atmos.
I think the biggest thing here on your 6 Dawn turn as Whitebeard is establishing some kind of pressure, like a Thatch, like you said, or even, oh, we're going to go for the control here. We're going to go, I think that's 5-drop Marco
Yep.
plus Otama to KO the starter deck Zoro. It did not have 1 Dawn underneath it, so it is not currently a 6K. That will get rid of it.
Tough. That's huge. Being able to keep Law off of their 5 characters, especially like really important characters or really important attacking characters like that Zoro is real advantageous. Like that's one card that they don't have, and that's another attacker for this turn. That, like as you were saying, if Law or Whitebeard passed over to this turn, having all their characters up, it would have they could have potentially just won out the game right there, or brought Zor or at least brought Whitebeard down to no life without being able to use any events to defend themselves this turn.
And now the Law player is just thinking, I'm not nearly as set up for shambles as I want to be, and I lost all my attackers last turn.
Mhm.
This is going to be pretty tough because if I'm riding this aggro plan into the ground, my opponent now has 3 attacks that could all potentially lead to lethal on my following turn if I don't bring up enough defense as well against the red deck, which can sometimes just ignore our defense.
Mhm.
This in the business is called a pickle. Our law player is in a pickle.
He's in a pickle. What do you think about blocking with the chopper? Like that, I thought that was interesting. I don't necessarily like we obviously don't know what the hands are. So that was they blocked the chopper. The Atmos attacked for 6K and we blocked with chopper. And in a deck like Law where like we really need to have bodies established to start shambling and getting our true value engine going. I'm not sure I'm convinced that blocking with that chopper may have been the play. I think it might have been better to pitch the 2 cards. What's your thought?
I'm gonna go with the board presence is valuable, but at the end of the day, it is just a chopper, and that card can so easily be dealt with against a red deck. Obviously, we're
Mhm.
guessing that our opponent doesn't have, 5-drop Luffy in their hand, but they could have various other things like removal spells that can just straight up get rid of the blockers. And
Mhm.
so I think getting the value out of it now is better than getting the value out of it later. Yes, I would have loved to have seen like an actual Dawn committal to get rid of that chopper, whether it be attached to the leader, or attached to the Atmos, or just playing a card first. But it's still going to, I think, be advantageous for him to block instead of sacrifice the 2 cards, especially those 2 cards with powerful things like Bonnie here, which can help him set up the rest of his board to deal more aggression this turn.
Mhm. And we pull off the Bonnie. We actually search a Rush Zoro off the search, sending back. I think it was a couple starter deck Namis. So I kind of got the read that they're actually playing starter deck Nami, which is kind of a change of pace for Law. We see a lot of Laws starting to introduce the starter deck Nami, which allows you to take a Rested Dawn and place it under any of your characters or leaders. Just getting more value out of your Dawns is pretty powerful, especially in a deck like Law, which is quite often using their Dawn to either shambles, play characters, get some board advantage. You don't really get to use the Dawn offensively, and that card kind of lets you squeak a little bit of that through.
And right now, I think the law player here is just debating: do I go for aggro? Do I try to clear that Atmos? What is advantageous here? I think trying to do anything other than attack the leader would be futile because of the amount of cards the Whitebeard player has in hand. He's showing us with those dice right there that he has 8 cards. But
Yeah.
there we see the Atmos. We want to start burning the cards out of hand. I guess that's a guaranteed way to get rid of cards. So that way, when you do bring them down to 0 life, inevitably they have less to potentially stop your game-winning attacks with. But if
Mhm.
you can't shambles, I think it'll be pretty tough to get the actual aggro you need.
I'm inclined to agree. I think the problem is from what I have from what read I have of the hand, they might not have star or the super rare law, 5-drop law to actually properly get your shambles combos going, which that
Mhm.
makes them kind of hesitant to try to commit to the board. And we're gonna play a Nami here.
After
Um,
countering with that Thatch.
mhm.
Honestly, something we could see him do here, the law player, is play that second Bonnie that he flashed us in his hand, because
Mhm.
what that will kind of inevitably do is give you 3 juicy pseudo blockers, I like to call them, against your opponent. Cards that you don't necessarily have to attack, but most people do, and they kind of don't attack your life because of it. So it
Yeah.
can kind of be like a really cool way to increase your hand, increase your board, and also add to your defense in some late game situations.
Mhm.
Um, Whether or not this weapon player will kind of not smell blood in the water, given they have 2 attackers plus their leader, and their opponent only has 2 life, potentially no blockers in play, is yet to be seen.
Yeah, that's true. Taking a little time to search off for this Nami. It was the last action was playing the Nami. We only have 2 Dawn up after this Nami, so we won't be able to shambles this turn no matter what we do. A little unfortunate. I wonder if had they instead chose to search with a second Bonnie, like you were saying, to set up the pseudo blocker, maybe they could have found the law and they actually picked the chopper and played the chopper off
Yeah,
of the Nami.
if you can choose pseudo blocker or an actual blocker, I think actual blocker is a bit more consistent.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so we're staring down Atmos. Staring down, we got Atmos on the board. We got 5-drop Marco on the board. Ezo is only attack Bonnie. Yeah,
Easy cleanup.
I guess that counts. That kind of counts or counters your point about the pseudo blocker. This Ezo essentially wasn't necessarily an attacker and then became an attacker because it had a Bonnie to
So had a
attack
second
into.
Bonnie come down, it might have eaten one of the other attacks, or at least forced Dawn out of the opponent to make that Otama attack into it. Was
That's
kind of what
fair.
I was getting at. It was if a
Yeah,
second one
yeah.
comes down.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
don't get me wrong, Ezo coming in as a sharpshooter against Bonnie, that's always sick. I
It's
love seeing
over.
stuff like that.
I personally love trying to win with Otama, putting 10 Dawn under it and just going for
Oh man, we love the win more of
it.
Otama. Here we're
uh,
seeing the Marco go after the Brook, the rested Brook here. The opponent's kind of like going, I don't have a way to get rid of that chopper, and even if I did, I'd be wasting too much Dawn to the point where I probably can't kill you anyway. So let's just go ahead and clear your board. This is a situation that Whitebeard loves, a board full of weenies that have
oh
to have
yeah.
a lot of Dawn committed to them in order to actually deal damage to him. And this is something that we hate to see from Law. More to your point too of running like the 1-drop starter deck Nami just to have more Dawn flexibility. It just adds also to your overall aggression without needing to sacrifice board presence, which is super huge for Law.
Oh yeah, no, that card was great back in the days of 8-drop kid. I would always play that, and I would on 8 play 8-drop kid, rest him to play a 3 cost or less character. It would always be the starter deck, and then that Nami would allow me to put the 1 Dawn under 8-drop kid as a nice little 2-card
Oh, we've
combo.
got 5 Dawn being rested here on 1 life. And there we see, what is that? The King Dew coming
King
down. Yeah.
do, yep. So we got really good curve out, and we have 2 Dawn up for any guard points or red beams we may have found at this point.
Yeah, this Law is going pretty far behind now in terms of both board presence and overall tempo. And here
Mhm.
you can see that both players haven't even reached their maximum Dawn yet. And look, both players are at 1 life. One player has 2 6Ks and a 7K in play with a 6K leader and 7 cards in hand. That just speaks to the overall power of the red curve right now. It can just do so much so fast that if you're a deck that is falling behind / can't keep up, you will probably be left in the dust. Yeah, within
Yeah.
the first like 4 or 5 turns of the game.
It feels like it's coming down to Law not being able to find their 5-drop Law from set 1, the blocker. Just not being able to find that just kind of like stifles a lot of your combo opportunity and your value engine. And
Wow. Red
attacking
Hawk
non.
being
Oh
used to protect the
god.
Ezo and then kill the Brook is dirty.
Oh,
So
that's so
dirty.
rough. All right, we're gonna we'll play one, use 1 Dawn, play Bonnie, use 1 Dawn, use Bonnie effect, and we're gonna get a beige off of that. Looks like still no starter deck or still no 5-drop Law. That's just too rough. I think. Oh man, that's gonna be rough. I don't know what else to say, man. This is is gonna be a struggle for a lot. This is an uphill battle. They could maybe pull it out with, and we know they have Rush Zoro, so if they can establish a couple blockers, we know we just got the Beige, we can get that blocker. We have one life to kind of stall a little bit. And then maybe Whitebeard just doesn't have any blockers next turn, and we can try to go for some big attacks, some big multi-attacks next turn.
Yeah, that's always the super interesting thing about Whitebeard is like because he will inevitably go to 0, this deck has to prioritize defense at a certain point. Like the first 5 turns of the game, it doesn't need to care at all if you attack it, but the turn 6 through 10, it kind of needs to care if you attack it because every attack could be lethal. And if you demand at least 3 cards per swing every time you swing into a Whitebeard, it's kind of impossible for them to win unless they've already won already.
Yeah. Oh man.
So here we're seeing the players. Oh, I think his deck was just upside down. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it is what it is.
At least he has those beautiful sleeves that we can tell what's right side up, what's upside down. So it's easy to fix.
Yeah, I always catch myself like shuffling wrong, especially if I'm using the monocolor cards like our Whitebeard player. Like you'll just draw a random card and it's upside down. You're just like, God dang it. I shuffled wrong at some point, and then I'm gonna be infinitely upset fixing this later.
Whenever I play IRL and do that, I always do a fun little spin move with the card. Then my opponents just go, okay, this guy is
Doing magic tricks.
I don't know why.
Right.
There we see the Otama coming down, targeting the Atmos to reduce its power by 2k. We might see some board control because, like you said, there is no blockers on the Whitebeard side. Trying to get rid of some of the potential attackers could be super huge, especially if we're getting the read that there's no Rush Luffy in the deck. Sadly, though, there could be Ace in the deck, the 7-drop Ace, which can probably definitely come down and win this game next turn.
Oh, we let the Atmos through. I feel like if we had the 2k 1k, I think it was advantageous for us to counter out of that.
Zoro comes down and attacks the Ezo. He wants to kind of protect his little weenies from being swung back into. And there we see a Beige coming down, which is just going to be 1 blocker against 3 attackers, 2 of which are 6k, 1 of which is 7k. And the potential for an Ace to come down, the potential for a 9-drop Whitebeard is there. We haven't seen it searched, but it could easily have been drawn. The nice thing is that even if he does have it, he cannot chain it. But 1 might be all he needs given this board state.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be a 9-drop Whitebeard would be, I think, game ending here. Sending your leader to 8 and then keeping this 1 life when you're kind of just hoping that this 1 life doesn't your win condition is Whitebeard takes this last life himself, and then you're able to just attack with all your attackers and try to go for a last ditch effort at game. You're just losing too much value at every turn to the little allowing this Otama to become an attacker, and like last turn allowing Izo to be an attacker. It just costs you too much bounties on board. Even if it does get you a surge, you still haven't searched the correct pieces that you've been hoping for. So now you're just doing you're just doing the inevitable damage control thing, and you're just playing a losing game at that point.
Here we're seeing the Whitebeard player think. I think he's just debating whether or not it's safe to go for game. Opponent has 4 cards in hand. We have 3 attackers. They have 1 blocker. It seems pretty easy just to go, okay, let's do 7, 7, 9, or like 7, 9 lethal. Like there could be a lot of ways where he forces this block, forces a hit. But he might just be going, well, if I do have 9-drop, is that just like a safer play? Clear the board, play 9-drop, win next turn, don't take my life, still have 5+ cards in hand.
He's telegraphing that he has the 9-drop, right? You put 1 Don under Otama specifically, not only to get rid of the Bonnie, but also to that gives the bag out of the cat away. We're not playing the 9-gate this turn for sure.
Oh wow. Not blocking the 7k Marco swing here might be actually tough. Had you could have just countered that from hand. It's so easy to go 9 now with King Do and then just go what 11 with leader Newgate and go good luck, because even if you do that, like I think you can survive a 15k swing on the crackback weirdly enough as Newgate. Like I think that's not out of the question given the potential cards in hand. You could even probably leave like 1 or 2 Don up and still threaten enough lethal given there's only 4 cards in lost hand, it looks like. There we're seeing the 9, which I think is perfect math here. if you're gonna block 7, can you counter out of 9? Is I guess his question.
Yeah, no, this is that's a read on the hand too, and we take it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this
And
is
we
a
know
giant bait. Oh,
they're
and
just
then
gonna give
he
it
just
up.
flips up a bunch of no counters. He's just gonna attack my leader.
That's so unfortunate. Yeah, it was a starter deck Law, another Rush Zoro, another Nami. Just never saw the 5-drop Law. And
yeah, the age-old story against red. I drew all my power cards and none of my counter power, and I just got what's the word? Curved out a little too quickly.
Two starter deck Laws, another Rush Zoro. I think it was a Rush Luffy in there too. Like, oh man, that hand just was not helping him win this game today. Oh, that's so unfortunate.
Also, I think the Whitebeard player had what? 3 2K counters and a guard point in hand. Whew, that's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, they were not losing that match, man.
Oh, and we just got word from our stream judge that the Katakuri won the 3rd match against Zoro. So it's looking like both teams are now 1-1 from round 1, meaning it's all up to their middle players. The Smoker versus, I think, the Law. Ooh, I bet you it's going to be a super dramatic game.
That's dramatic, dude. Imagine being the guy that's got to clutch it out. That's nerve-wracking, man. I don't want to be that guy.
Oh, what? I love that kind of pressure in a team event. I don't know. I think it'll make that Smoker player stronger, and it'll make that Law player go, okay, it's time to shambles.
Oh man, I just let it, like, it's because that's part of the game, right? In a team event, like if you lose, you're letting your team down, and that feels so much worse than
Think about it this way. If you lose, you're giving your teammates an opportunity to help you.
Oh, true.
And then later you'll pay them back. That's the way it always works. I got you this round, you got me next round. That's the way it's gonna be for some of these players. Like, I bet you if we do any interviews in the finals after the people win, I promise you people are gonna be like, yeah, he won a couple, I won a couple. Very rarely will an entire team go undefeated throughout an entire day, because it's actually pretty interesting to see, kind of like you notice it right there. Like, the Whitebeard player didn't even declare his final attack, and the Law player was like, doesn't matter, I lost this game, I'm just going to scoop it up, and I'm going to rely on my teammates. That's how much trust usually is being had. Like, you're not even subconsciously going, everything I have to do to win, because it's not all on you. It's a team effort, which is super cool to see. So I imagine there'll be a lot of camaraderie, a lot of debauchery, and the occasional heartbreak around every now and then.
For sure.
For people.
Speaking of which, a thing we didn't mention about the 3v3 tournament, we did mention that the players can speak to each other. The middle player can speak to their 2 adjacent. So you can talk to your adjacent players, right? How much bluffing do you think goes on in that in those kind of conversations? Like, is there ever a world where I sit down, I look into my teammate, I'm like, do I guard point here? Do I rad beam, or should I just play the ace next turn? And you just say that out loud for everyone to hear.
I don't know how much you're allowed to talk. I don't think you're allowed to reveal information maybe to your opponent, like to your teammates. But I do know whatever you do say has to be heard by your opponent. It has to be loud enough for your opponent to hear, which could create mind games. Like, even if you say something like this to your teammate, I've got this. like it's the like, I can only, if I was sitting across from someone that said I got this, A, the amount of rage I would feel, and B, the amount of no you don't I would feel would probably make me misplay, because I would get I would get a little too into it and not think straight. So I could totally see some mind games like that happening today. I don't know if it's like gonna happen, but I could see it happening. Oh, we just got confirmation, guys. This is how fast these best of 1 games can go sometimes in this format. Law beat the Smoker. So the team of Zoro, Law, and Whitebeard team, I think it was, what is it? Polly to the Moon.
Polly to the Moon
were the victors in round 1. So the winner on stream continued to be the winner of the actual round. I wonder how many times today we do a stream match and the person that won, actually their team lost because their other 2 teammates both got bodied. I'm curious to see that statistic at the end of this live stream today. Gonna be super cool. But yeah,
so
that
far
does it
we're
for
1
round
for
1,
1,
guys. Huge shout out to Team Polly to the Moon. The 3 best decks in the format, Zoro, Law, and Whitebeard, took it. I wonder how many times that's going to happen today. Probably enough. We're going to probably go ahead and take a quick little break here as we get ready for round to be sure to stay tuned. If you have any questions, be sure to type in !3on3, and be sure to stay tuned for the chopper events happening tomorrow as well, if you don't end up being able to stay with us today.
Bye. Welcome back, everybody, to the One Piece card game 3v3 tournament in Monroe, Pennsylvania. Last round, we just had a very exciting match against Whitebeard versus Law. We didn't see the Law be able to draw his 5-drop blocker to start off his combos, but Whitebeard took it, and his team took it too. So, congrats to Team Polly to the Moon winning round 1. But we'll be going into round 2. What do you expect to, or what? Let me just cut you in, Steven. Go ahead, start talking.
Yeah. This is the unfortunate part about not being in Pennsylvania in person, is we don't actually get to speak with any of the players. We don't get to actually talk to them. We don't get to like have anything 411 super immediately beforehand. We're gonna find out alongside y'all who we're gonna be fighting against. I am getting some word right now that I believe Dofi and Katakuri could be a matchup that we have access to us. But who knows what else? So far, we're seeing 2 rounds in a row of Katakuri showing up too, which seems to be the preferred yellow deck ever since the beginning of OPO3. I wonder if that'll continue throughout this tournament to be the case.
Attacking for 7 for 1 Dawn commitment is always going to be strong, right? Just in the same vein of Whitebeard always being able to attack you for 6 and demanding a 2K. Attacking you for 7 for 1 Dawn, demanding 2 cards every turn is almost just as good. Not to mention you gain the information of what typically you look at your own life. So being able to know what your own life has in store for you it's just really good, right? Compared to like the other yellow decks where it's like starter deck Mom, black yellow Mom, and then now Yamato nowadays too.
And like it's like that. I know we've said it a bunch today, but we're gonna continue to say it. Like that's the beauty of 3v3 is we get to see these sort of different styles of so many different versions of decks. Where in One Piece, where like when you see a yellow deck in a tournament, you're only going to see like one yellow deck. Whereas in this one, we have the chance to see Big Mom, we have the chance to see Yamato and Katakuri, and we probably will see all of them technically today. Maybe not like on the stream, but they'll be shown off, they'll be played, and I'm sure someone will find victory with them.
Definitely makes you think about like in the 3v3 environment. It definitely makes you wonder like how much team building goes into it, right? Because your seating arrangement actually matters. Player A will always be facing off against the specific their counterpart. Or you can strategize, right? This player will always be playing against that seat across the table, and the middle player will always be playing against the middle person, and then same for the end.
Yeah.
And so like I know, speaking to Garrett and a lot of or the people that won, the team that won the last 3v3 event, they basically said, we'll put our players on the sides are going to be the 2 strongest decks, Whitebeard and Zoro. And in the middle, we'll have the player that can kind of like our wild card player. And then ended up being their Dofi. So they had Dofi in the middle for the entire tournament. And it worked out for them. So like, and then like that amount of thought, like, is there another level to that kind of thought? Or does it really not matter? I don't know.
I think in One Piece, because the middle player is allowed to talk to both teammates, most people will put their quote unquote best player there, and that's where that strategy of let's put the wild card in the middle to really shake them up. And we have the tables ready to go as well as the teams on both sides. We have on the left team Jared Croyer, beautiful, and then on the right we have Scam Z. And the matchup we have for you guys is a mirror match. But of the 2 teams, we have a Zoro, a Dofi, and a Katakuri, and a Katakuri, a Zoro, and a Whitebeard. So only 1 leader different here between these 2 teams, and we're seeing the mirror match happening. The Zoro player on the right is starting off with for Scam Z, and they are revealing that they're playing Iza, which means they're playing, obviously, the Whitebeard package within their Zoro deck. I'm sure there's going to be things like Fire Fist, Fiery Doll, all these fun various cards in there that are just so good in the Zoro deck.
And then get a Jozu off of that search. So just stocking up their hand with the 2Ks. Zoro mirror. How do you think? What do you think decides the Zoro mirror in particular? Like, I mean, is it tempo? Is it being able to control the board? Who see more Fire Fist on the Zoro on the Jared side? We're playing a Nami searching a Brook. Yeah, like I just when it comes to a mirror match, often I feel like, especially in the lower to the ground card games like One Piece. It just sometimes it can feel like it just who sees it first, or who sees more of it, or who sees the better line. But there is still play in between the two decks, right? Like, what do you think matters the most?
To me, I feel like specifically for Zoro, usually when Zoro plays against any other deck, eventually Zoro will win the board. Their removal's too strong. Their ability to create actual aggression out of nowhere is too strong. They will have the stronger board
Hmm.
in and that's just inevitable, and every single deck needs to have that mindset in mind. But when you're doing the mirror match, I think like what you're saying, where like who draws it first, all that jazz will be important. But the way that'll kind of look in this game is who creates the most amount of pressure continuously every single turn, despite whatever removal may be coming from the other side, if at all. Because
Hmm.
unlike Whitebeard, Zoro's curve is, like you said, way more low to the ground. Like lots of one drops, lots of low power cards, and then the occasional 5 drop, the occasional 9 drop Whitebeard, literally just one of them. And then your defense is more sporadic throughout the entire game. And then you have powerful event cards that can just dominate.
Yeah. So now we're seeing why the red package is seen across the board as some of the best stuff on Scamzy's side. We saw Dadan into an Ezo into a Jozu, being able to get Daisy Chain almost 3 cards into your hand and then attacking for 5, and then Zoro took it. On the Jared side, they're just going to play a attack with Zoro, establish a Robin, which is huge, and then play a Gordon.
Something that's interesting to note here is given that we've seen Izo and we've seen Nami on both sides here, there might actually be 0 copies of Buggy in either deck, which means they're probably not playing as many event cards as maybe the earlier OP3 Zoro decks were playing at the beginning of this format. But I'm sure you're going to see the random copy of Fire Doll in there to help against the Whitebeard matchup
Absolutely.
for sure.
Jet Pistol. Well, the Team Jared side is playing Nami. So Jet Pistol's still alive. Rad Beam.
I mean, we've seen Nico Robin too, which I haven't seen in a minute either for Nico
Such a
Robin
good
for
card though.
Zoro.
I still love this Robin. Being
Probably
able
good for
to
Mirror.
oh my god, yes, the mirror. It must be insane in the mirror. But the point oh, Buggy, right. So the thing about Buggy that I never liked was you have to it kind of forces you I almost felt like into a deck building trap where you play Buggy and you almost needed to run at least, well, I think the number thrown around oftentimes is 12 options to make Buggy as consistent as possible. And I think committing that many deck slots to a single searcher and a single card type doesn't work, or like I feel like it leads to more problems than helps fix.
Yeah, I know we've spoken a lot about the powerful event cards within red, but there's still cards that have counter unless you're on curve. And there's the jet pistol you were talking about. We do see the Jared player playing it. That probably means that they're playing some sort of pure straw hat version of Zoro. So here we can probably see the two
Mhm,
competing camps. We got straw hat versus Whitebeard pirates, maybe some straw hats within Zoro's.
mhm.
Let's see who comes out on top. Obviously, that Marco's ability to dodge removal by discarding a card from your hand is going to be super huge. Dodging that jet
Jet
pistol.
pistol, yeah.
I forget. Does the 5 drop Marco? Can you discard anything, or does it have to be a Whitebeard Pirates card?
So this Marco, the 5-drop Marco has to be an event spell, and then
Event
the blocker Marco has to be if you're at 2 or less life and it is KO'd, discard a uh you can
Whitebeard
discard a
Pirate.
Whitebeard pirate to save it. So
Beautiful. Just wanted to double check because I know they're both Marcos, and I was like, wait, which one was this one again?
oh man, dude, the arts get me all the time. Between the alt arts, the promo art for the blocker one, and this super rare one, I unless it's the normal art of the set 2 one Marco, like I have a hard time discerning which Marco it is constantly.
All right, and here we
Um,
see the one Don going on Zoro, unlocking the beautiful line of text that says all your characters gain plus 1,000. These Ezos are now actual threats. Going to be swinging, I think, 4K into Nico Ramen,
I believe
demanding a
so.
card.
And I think we defended this Robin is going it's this Robin's going to be worth multiple cards in your own hand to save.
Is
There
it worth 4 cards though? I don't know because
That's
because if
fair.
I'm Scam Z Zoro, I'm like, great, here comes another Ezo. Great, here comes my leader. Great, here comes Marco. Your turn. 2 cards in
That's
hand. I
fair.
still have my crazy board.
the guard point though. You're probably right though. I can't speak too much.
Oh, and there goes Marco number 2, getting rid of that Sunny. And here we go. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I think happens inevitably in every single Zoro game. Zoro just wins the board. Like, what are you going to do? Use your Nami to attack an Izo? Great. I still have another Izo to attack your Nami on the next turn. So I still
Yeah,
win that exchange. I have 2 Marcos that can potentially protect themselves from being KO'd by any of your event cards, which if you use those, that
yeah.
probably means you can't play more characters in play this turn.
Yeah, we're gonna put the perpetual dawn under Zoro. Funny, and I say that, but I think this is the first crossover turn in which both Zoros have actually put dawn under their leader to activate their effect.
And there's the buggy. So we do see the straw hat buggy version on the left, and then we see the more pure whitebird version on the right.
Looks like we whiffed. Oh no.
No event cards. Oof. But buggy is a super powerful card, specifically against Zoro. Having that protection from slash cards is pretty sick, as well as being a 3K base one drop is so crazy.
It's really I mean it's why it's the reason people want to play the card is because of the 3K base power and it being a searcher off of the Dawn and then searching an event themselves. I just have a hard time. And it has no counter, which is one of the negatives, which is partly where the 3K base power comes from. And then it has defense against slash, but there like you like I know early on people were kind of shocked as to how many slash type characters there were. But at the same time, you look across the pond and you see a ranged character and then 2, I believe, special characters. So this buggy, like if it goes in, it has plenty of answers to it. And we're going down to 2 life on the Scamzy side.
Yep, we got the Rush Zoro coming down for that 7K swing. We have the Gordon coming down again. I'm not a big fan of just playing Gordon and passing. I normally like seeing players like immediately use the effect to get some kind of value because as we saw earlier in the match, the Scamzy Zoro player just used a Marco to get rid of it without getting any actual value from the card. But if you want to build board, have a dude in play that could potentially attack on the following turn thanks to Zoro's effect, it makes a bit more sense in this deck maybe than other ones.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree with you, especially like at the same in the same vein as like Otama. You play the Gordon and you play the Otamas to try to like combo essentially a big event spell play of some kind, and here like not being able to see it, or you combo with the Robin too. Had for example like the earlier Gordon that was played, had they just played the Robin, waited a turn, then played the Gordon and then comboed the Gordon with the Robin, they could have cleared a Marco
Or made it go into the rest position and then attacked it with all their other characters at the very least.
at the which at the as you said, going for board against the Zoro mirror. Like it's looking like it's coming down to a board state at all times, and that could have been defining.
And something we're noticing too about the Straw Hat version on the left here for Team Jared, even though, like, I would say it's losing the board battle, it's winning the tempo battle. Like, there's way more access to rush attackers that are super consistent, like Luffy, like 3-drop Zoro, that's going to be super huge and searchable throughout the entire game. Here we're seeing Scam Z Zone 3-drop Zoro coming down, swinging for 6 at leader, and Team Jared is just taking every single life card because they want as many cards in their hand for the next turn. This is going to be a 7K swing coming in from this Marco at the leader, it sounds like. And they're
Yeah.
just like, okay, maybe I should stop this one and not go straight up to 0 against a, I don't know, 4 character board plus against Zoro for the
That's
next
tough, and
turn.
they have 6 cards in hand too. Scamzy is very ahead. Oh, and
Oh
we're
my
gonna take
goodness.
that life. We're
Do we
saying,
have another Zoro that we can just throw down and be like, oh, we do? And it's going to be for
oh my
7K.
god.
I mean, if you couldn't stop that 7K, can you stop this one? And the answer is yes.
Oh,
Double
double
Otama coming
2K.
down.
That's unfortunate. Having to over counter there. This might just be it for Team Jared's side.
Yeah, if they don't go for game this turn, this could just be all she wrote. But we are going to be at 10 Dawn. Like I said, the Straw Hat version has way more rushers that are super strong, super consistent. And we do have attackers. Like that's the beautiful thing about Zoro is everything can become an attacker. But 2 life, 5 cards in hand, 2 1-drops. It
That's a
seems like
lot
a
to
lot
ask.
that
It's a lot to
to like
ask
commit to this turn.
unless the hand is filled with
But there's no shot
um
you live, so you have to go for it, right? Like you
no, you
have to
have
go
to.
for
You
the win
can't
here.
survive 2 Zoros, 2 Marcos, even the Izo. And they're all gonna be at least 6K, 7K power. They're all gonna be demanding 2 card. It's just you have to go for game here.
Yeah,
Um
every attack needs to be minimum 7. and then you just go from there. Usually in these situations, I like to attack with the things that require the least amount of Dawn to get
First.
them to the correct number. But because you're at 0 life, like, it might just be better to commit them all the Dawn you possibly can to make everything 7K.
Yeah, I think you have to get you need a I think at minimum you have to attack. No, wait. Like, because you want to I don't think you can even afford to play around Jet Pistol is what I was gonna say. Like this
Well, because it's the
Gordon.
Whitebeard version, I don't think you have to worry about that. Fire Fist is probably the more
Oh, all right, so you got to
spooky,
get
spooky
above. If you
card.
can get above 5K, you're good. All right. Like this do we make this Gordon an attacker too, or we're also planning? We're also thinking about maybe another rusher. What do you think? If you had a Rush Zoro in hand, would it be better to commit that 3 Dawn into another 5K swing, or just make one attack 3K bigger?
Well, think of it this way, right? For one of them, it's 4 Dawn to create a 7K swing, whereas for the Buggy, it's 3 Dawn, and for the Gordon, it's 3 Dawn. So I actually think it's more sustainable just to go for the board itself rather than try to play another character. But
Mm-hmm.
if your goal is to go Gordon like 6K, this is fine if you block this one because I have these next 3 swings that are all going to be minimum 7/minimum 6 because I have another Rush Zoro in my hand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Like 4 cards in hand, making every single card become at least 1 card or 2 cards from hand by having 6K is actually super huge. We could have seen Team Jared actually play a bit more passive here if they do have another rusher because all 3 of these attacks no longer need to hit in
Yeah.
order to win. Is
And
I
we got
think
4
the
cards in
interesting
hand,
point.
Scamzy. So, as you said, if all 3 of these swings have, or not, so only 2 of these swings have to hit, and plus the rusher. Ugh,
If they have one, they could just be bluffing it too, obviously.
they could be bluffing it. I think I'm of the line that like you just commit to no committing to board is also hard. No, that's tough.
I think you just have to start swinging, you know, like
And
if
see
I'm
how it plays
Scamzy,
out.
I stop every attack I can. Like if I can stop this
Mhm.
one, I stop it. Boom. Now I'm
Right.
at 8, stops that attack because now it's forcing the blocker and the rusher, and the strongest those last 2 swings will be is 6K. All I need is for one of those 2 cards in my life to each be counter power, and I probably will be able to stop the lethal
Yeah.
swing. Right? Like that's like the defensive play there is okay, fine. I see what you're doing. I'm gonna stop this attack. What are you gonna
Yeah.
do now?
Yeah, that's just too much. Too much value out of the Marcos was gained here, and then
And now we're
oh, we're
attacking
trying to go
board,
for board.
and we're like, sure, that's fine. Like even if we have guard point plus rad beam, like we have 2
Too
more
many
attacks
attacks.
afterwards, all of
Yeah.
which can be 7K. Like just going 10 down on leader is the craziest play next turn because you go 15 leader and then you go 7/7 with Marcos.
Yep.
Good luck, have
Absolutely.
fun.
And I think we only have like 2 cards at best, maybe 3 on the Team Jared side. So they can't defend this. Even like just 15K in attack. I don't believe
Yeah,
it's
and just going for the
incorrect.
sevens first makes more sense too, right? Because you just
Yeah.
force all the option cards, or sorry, all the event cards you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. 7, 7,
It's
and
just
last
Jet
card was
Pistol,
a jet.
and that's a GG. Zoro for Scam Z1. Once again, we have and there was the fiery doll in
Oh
the life
wow.
there, which is pretty
So
strong card.
yeah, fiery doll. I believe that's what's the trigger on that? That's minus 10K. Is it like Red
I
Hawk?
I think it might be like Red Hawk. Yeah,
Uh,
I know the regular effect is just give a card plus 4,000, right?
yep. No, it's yeah.
Is it specifically leader? I forget.
I can't remember it. Fiery doll minus is 4K, or is it? Oh man, I know there's one.
Yeah,
Oh
your
man,
leader gains power plus 4,000, and then yeah, it's give a leader of character minus 10,000 as
that
the
yeah. So it
trigger,
does have the Red Hawk effect. Yeah. Okay, and it's
which is a
plus
very good
4K.
trigger.
Yeah.
Very very good trigger.
I remember in set 2 people kept getting caught out by, or even set 1 they were getting caught out by Red Hawk triggers.
Well,
Those
because in
were
order to play around Jet Pistol, you have to commit your Dawn first. And so that means that now you have less Dawn to actually make your now weakened guy strong enough to hit. So yeah, very, very impressive game 1 there. Always fun to see a lightning quick best of 1 match in One Piece. I believe that's the only match so far of this round to finish. I know that in the middle we have Katakuri versus Dofi. I'm sure that's a super interesting game and might take a while because anything yellow versus anything blue is a gigantic slugfest. That blue I don't think is going to have a good time
It
because
depends. It
because
depends
Big
on how
Mom
much.
comes down, Big Mom comes down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it depends on how much free tempo Dofi can generate off of the top of their deck. Like
That's
that's
very true.
such a like I think it's undervalued how powerful it is being able to get not just a free summon, because I think a lot of people conflate Arlong's ability with Dofi's. The difference I think is Dofi plays a card that you didn't have. And whereas Arlong plays a card that was already in hand, so you're still minusing one card from your hand size.
Mhm.
So like, and as I keep iterating, like everything in this game is like comes down to just cards in hand is like one of the most important stats in the game. So sure, Arlong's ability is great, gets to play character for free, but it's still a card from hand where Dofi just does it for free, or just from nowhere.
Yeah, very cool.
But
And
go ahead.
and now that we have some time while we're waiting to see what the rest of the matches end up shaking up like, let's go ahead and talk about Event Pack Volume 2, which I believe is the participation prizing for all of our players in this event. I think it's the first time we're using Event Pack Volume 2 in person, or is it the second time?
I think it's I know for Kissing Me we definitely had it. And then last or in I think we've been using it for a little bit. This one comes with the Raizo, Sakasuki, Sasaki, not Sakazuki, and Suru alt arts. And then on top of that we get the Sanji promo. I believe even the Frankie promos in this are the two like big fancy cards for this. Um yeah, no, I love the Sanji. Like, I'm a big Sanji collector. The second this card came out, I made sure to pick up a copy for my collection. I think the Sanji has some play in Yamato, just because it just so naturally works with your game plan, but it could just not be strong enough. Um, we're getting a word that our Team Z just swept the team that we saw. So we're keeping up. The winner of the stream is the team that won. Oh, and we also get the blue Luffy. I forgot about this Luffy. Have you played with this Luffy at all?
I don't think so.
Yeah. It's got the cool like Shonen Jump art though. Like I have the Japanese one somewhere just because I kind of have a subscription to them. But
Nice.
yeah.
But yeah, big shout out to what is it? Team Z for sweeping. They were the Zoro, the Whitebeard, and the Katakuri team.
Yep.
Good
Which
on them.
Katakuri. Oh man, like I wanna like yellow. I want like I love their mechanics. I think it's such a cool way to I always like the like I feel like there's an inclination for decks to want to heal and then just endlessly heal in other card games. But in this game,
Mm.
it's like you're healing for a reason, because you're going to either trash your life, use that as a cost for something as a thunderbolt. You're going to use that to fill your hand with another, or fill the board with another trigger of card, which you run an excess amount of because you're yellow. And so like you're actually using that your life as a resource rather than just like an engine to infinitely heal and wall out your opponent like you would see in other games.
Yeah, right now
Um,
it's a little bit difficult to plus from your life outside of just having trigger effects go off. And that's why
mhm,
I'm personally a big fan of the starter deck Big Mom deck, because it's the only deck that really manipulates the triggers rather than just sees what they are. I think that's a really fun effect to kind of like create that sacky feeling, but have it be actually intentional. Like putting
mhm,
a Shirioshi on top, so that way you can get that free cycle +1 from your hand to get rid of a lot of those dead cards you have to play, like all those big giant drops that are the only actual win conditions in the deck, is super cool to me. And I think once more time goes on for more yellow cards to come out, I'm sure we're going to see tons of ways that people can actually gain advantage from their life, not just set up fun little traps for your opponent that will inevitably give you advantage, which hopefully you can use to steamroll into a victory. Because as we've said before, One Piece is a game all about advantage. It's all about winning board, keeping the winning of the board, and then actually using that to beat your opponent. Very, very cool.
we're getting some good yellow cards too in set 4.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting the beige that has a trigger. Very powerful trigger. I believe it's one of your when triggered, one of your opponent's characters or leaders can attack, which just giving your opponent an attack they just don't have anymore is huge. And then the Sanji blocker. And speaking of OPO4, it's coming out. Pre-releases are next week. Use your Bandai apps. Check for any stores nearby that are going to be hosting them. You're going to be able to win a you have the opportunity to win a Land of Wano yellow Luffy. He's all dressed up like he is in the Wano anime. If you guys keep up, he's all like in samurai inspired kimono or kimono. Is it? It's kimonos for women. Whatever. Anyway, OPO4 actually officially comes out September 22nd. We'll see coming in with a bunch of dual color leaders. The two forerunners everyone's talking about is definitely Rebecca and Dofi. Have you gotten a chance to play any of those decks yet?
I haven't gotten a chance to play any of them besides Rebecca, and I'm a huge fan of that leader. I like everything she's doing.
Yeah, the was it the 7-drop gear 4th Luffy plus King Kong gun, I think are that combos, that those two cards comboing with one another is just brutal. Oh my god, double attack, I believe. Just nasty. And then other cards too, the toy soldier, I forget his name. But he's very powerful card, being able to, like, if he gets KO'd, rest your leader or rest the stage to prevent the KO. Too strong. And then again, Luffy, or not Luffy, Dofi, film Dofi. Everyone's talking about that deck. And then on top of that, blue is getting so many good cards.
As a blue stan, I'm very excited. I've been a blue player since the beginning, and I'm tired of having to only play Dofi, Crocodile, and the occasional Nami to troll my fellow local grinders. I'm excited to have some really fun, powerful control tools, as well as just advantage engines that are going to be so strong and so powerful.
Kiros, the toy soldier's name, Kiros. But being a blue player, like, what are your thoughts on blue then? Like, it's you may see one, maybe two top an event, but like we saw one win Gen Con, right? So where do you think blue stands? Like, what's your vibe?
Well, as of right now, I actually think specifically Blue Dofi is really well positioned because it naturally has a really good game plan against Whitebeard specifically, because you want to be as aggressive as you can while protecting your board as much as you can, so that you can continue that aggression. And that's literally what Dofi does. And then having things like the promo Jinbei as a way to kind of like circumvent things like Fire Fist from being as crazy as possible against you is pretty cool to me. So right now, I actually do like the position of blue. I just don't love the card pool of blue because it feels very limiting in what you're allowed to play with. It kind of feels like forced one way or another, or it kind of feels like the same thing we've been doing since set 1, not really anything too new. Whereas in set 4, I feel like a lot of crazy stuff is going to be happening, like you said, with blue, specifically with Rebecca, specifically with things like Crocodile and other shenanigans that I'm really excited for. So yeah, blue right now, not bad, not crazy, but in the future, I think it's going to be pretty nuts.
I agree with you. So I think that wraps up our talking points for a little bit. We can go on a break before set or round 3. So far, we're 2 for 2. The winning deck on stream has also been the team to win. That's very exciting. But you got any last words, Steven?
I'm excited to see what other crews can dominate throughout today's 3-on-3, but let's see for ourselves later. Welcome back, everyone, to the One Piece 3v3 in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. Once again, my name's Steven. I'm joined by the lovely Seb, aka Risu the Squirrel. We're coming at you with round 3 of today's event, and I just got word that we have a Newgate versus Newgate mirror match. It was bound to happen. These two emperors were bound to face off and do the patented wait meme, and I'm excited to see if there's any differences between these two decks, if it's a pure true 50 card mirror, or if there's anything else funny going on.
Yeah, there's a few versions of Whitebeard out there. There's the pure, it's ironically called the Boatbeard still, or Whitebeard. And then there's still Strawbeard, and then there's the in between that most people like. At least I've always just kind of called it Garrett Beard ever since he won. He won the or no, he topped. He didn't win. He's won. He's a great player. But a lot of people like to call it Garrett Beard, which it ends up being like the Straw Hat hybrid Whitebeard mix that's out there. But at the end of the day, these players are here to win. Whitebeard is traditionally seen as the best deck of the format, so it's no surprise that we're here.
Once again, we have Team Scam Z from the last round making a reappearance, this time on the left side of the table. And on the right, we have Team June Goons. Again, we have Whitebeard plus Zoro plus a third deck. On the left, the third deck is Katakuri. On the right, the third deck is Kinemon. And funny enough, both those decks are playing against each other in the middle, which is very exciting. Like you said, Seb, the middle players are often the wild cards, and if everyone has that mentality, that means the wild card matches are going to be happening a lot.
Yeah, Kinemon Whitebeard plays Izo, gets the search, and then but the Kinemon was such a deck that like everyone was talking about being really good because of what we knew about the Japanese meta, and just for it to kind of not make the splash we thought it was gonna make, like it definitely fell out of favor very quickly over here in the States or
And funny
in the
enough, I do
West.
actually think with the introduction of OPO3 and the very powerful Krieg 7-drop card, it actually got a huge boost to it. Sorry, no, 6-drop 7K body card.
Mhm.
Actually got a huge boost to it. But here we seeing Team Scam Z Wipebeard taking the aggro approach, swinging for 8K as soon as possible to get their opponent down to 4. So that way they'll be going down to 3. And here we're seeing Team Jun Gun go, fine, if we're playing that game, I'm playing that game too. Here's 6K with Izo. Get ready for another 6K from my leader. I love this energy so much coming from Team Jun Goons because weirdly on the next turn, having that 5 Dawn turn, the possibility for a Luffy to come down, the possibility for like a Marco to come down and kill whatever cards we have in play like this Izo is bound to happen. May as well get value out of it now by getting some damage in and or potentially digging a card out of the opponent's hand.
Mhm.
Love
And
it.
they actually chipped into the damage, and we don't see, like, to your credit, like, yeah, it had Scam Z's Whitebeard there played the Marco and KO'd the Izo. Yeah, the Izo wouldn't have gotten the value that it got. That Izo actually did 1 point of damage to Whitebeard, and yeah, but we're just gonna play King Du on the Scam Z side, and Whitebeard is or June Goons is going in for 6K.
And
And we're
there's the
just gonna
thatch.
oof. Vanillas are
Card is
so
beefy.
scary in this game.
Specifically this thatch against this matchup, like the 8K body is going to be the hugest thing. Sure, King Du's a 7K body, but that can easily be stopped by one of the 15 2Ks in every single Whitebeard deck.
Yeah.
Should be pretty good.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. Always go back and forth with people, and I think everyone always talks about it. It's hard to not talk about how good vanillas in this game still are. Just like their efficient stat lines, 7K, a 7K stat line against a normal leader, always demanding 2 cards from your opponent for no Dawn commitment is just incredibly strong. And as we see here, takes another life, and we establish our own thatch on the Scam Z side.
Anything
So
you can do, I can do better. Thatch plus Ezo is not as scary as Thatch plus King Do. And both players here, by the way, have been very aggressive so far. Both players are about to go down to 0 life on the following turn, and they still have 2 turns essentially worth of Dawn attachments before they run out. So as you can see, both players have a gigantic grip. This is how a lot of Whitebeard matchups go. Like I said earlier, most of the time they focus on aggro in the first
mhm.
half of the game and then only on defense the rest of the half. And so establishing these crazy powerful cards like King Do and Thatch are going to be super huge. Wouldn't be surprised to see Team June Goons here go for an actual double attack into the King Do this turn to try to clear it out of the board because going for life kind of feels pointless unless you're trying to go for game this turn, which I feel like would be impossible.
I don't think you go for game here, right?
Me
Like
either.
the grip size is too big. So you're right there. However, I this is a critical turn for the so Scam Z next turn will be at 9 Dawn. That is the first available turn that they will have to be able to 9 gate their opponent and protect this last life. So what I often like to do on this particular turn as the opponent, and it just happens to be a Whitebeard mirror, I love checking the life. And what I mean is like, all right, I'm going to attack this thatch into you, and AK body's typically good enough to do this. I'm going to attack you, and if you take that life, great, because you were going to take that life anyway had you non-night gain. And now if you defend this life as Whitebeard, you're essentially telegraphing to me that you are going to 9-drop next turn, and I can play accordingly this turn to anticipate your 9-drop because you know what I'm saying? Like, it protects that life. So if you get rid of that life, like, it just I don't know. Maybe I'm talking circles.
Oh, what you're basically saying is like it's easier to get this last life card now when the leader is 6K rather than if it was 8K in the following turn. Because if the 9-drop Whitebeard comes down next turn, they get to keep their last life and not automatically go to 0. And they're now an 8K base. So going for game becomes next to impossible.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. I'm glad we got there.
Yeah.
So
So I could see something like Thatch going into leader, no Dawn, then going 1 Dawn on Whitebeard, attack into the King Do, and then go play sorry, not one Dawn into the Whitebeard. I would play 7-drop Ace,
and going,
reduce,
yes.
rush into the King Do, and then attack it with leader if all else fails. That's what I would
Yeah,
do.
that sounds like a really good play. And looking at the hand, we got a guard point, rush Luffy, some counter. It looks like we're playing we got a few of the straw hat stuff on the Whitebeard or on the June Goon side.
Mhm.
Bunch of 2K counters, Makinos. Man, oh, as we can actually kind of see here, they're actually discussing with their teammate what the
Mhm.
best play here to do is.
Yeah,
Some
as we said,
3v3
you can
action.
discuss with the middle teammate about all kinds of things. Apparently, you can even discuss what plays you're doing as long as you are talking loud enough for all opponents to hear you. That is completely legal within 3v3 format. I think Team June Goons is like, I really want to search for Whitebeard, but I think the middle player is flashing that 7-drop ace that he has in hand, being like, dude, go for this, clear the board, get the damage in, and then next turn force them to play 9-drop Whitebeard. And even if they do, you can probably still kill them. But here we're
Mhm.
seeing the Ezo come down. I believe that puts us to 7 Dawn still, so we do have access to the ace play if we still want it. But this time we won't be able to keep guard point up. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen there.
We have a lot of 2K counters in hand from this Whitebeard player. So I think they're just I think yeah, they're just trying to see if they can get to the Whitebeard. Regardless if they saw it here or not. Oh, but get a blocker.
Yeah, get
That's
the what is
kind
it,
of
Fasho or something? Faso? What is it?
Forza. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a blocker, two drop 2K blocker, really
Mhm.
powerful in the late game as uh Whitebeard because
Oh,
essentially, especially against like red mirrors, it basically forces your opponent to go -3 Dawn if they want to actually have you not have a blocker in play. And because you're Whitebeard, every blocker essentially becomes an extra life card in the late game, and you already have so much awesome defense. It's pretty crazy.
I absolutely agree. I think the telltale sign of like a winning Whitebeard play is definitely when towards the end, as you said, towards the end game when they just drop 3 blockers in the same turn. I've almost never seen a Whitebeard lose a play like that. Just because like what you've done is you've saved your blockers for the entire game and then played them at the most opportune moment. And like that in a sense, you're playing around Marco when you do that. You play around Fire Fist when you do that because those are cards that get used quite often in the early game to mid game, and then but their ideal targets are always the blockers. But if you save them towards the end, it just makes it just makes going for game that much just more impossible.
A thing we haven't thought about, by the way, is the fact that Team June Goons here on their 8 Dawn turn is going to be forced to go to 0 life. So they won't even have the option of that 9-drop Whitebeard play that you were talking about earlier to protect that last life. So they're probably trying to figure out the best way to not only pressure the opponent's board / life, but also have enough defense on the following turn to not just get swung at by this crazy strong board. That's why they're
Mhm.
maybe a bit hesitant to go for that big ace play because it commits so much Dawn. And even though they have a bunch of 2Ks in their hand, they could face an
They could
18K
still
swing
just
next turn,
lose.
which can eat
Yeah.
through a couple of 2Ks, I think.
No, you're probably yeah, that makes sense. I think this Whitebeard attack is going into the King do for 7.
Yeah, you want to force cards out of the opponent's hand, even if they do go for the 9-drop next turn. You want them to have as little cards in hand as possible on the turn you go for game. Anything over 5 cards in hand, I think, would be pretty tough to beat your opponent through.
And then attack 9 into the King do again. We're gonna
Guard
guard point
point.
out of that. Fossa into Fossa.
Boom. And then the 1 Dawn up to keep that guard point that we know in hand, but obviously the opponent doesn't know, but it is being telegraphed. This is a pretty good defensive board because what's really cool too is even if they do go for a 9-drop Whitebeard turn, the most they're going to have is 8/8/7. You have 2 blockers that can't be KO'd because the 9-drop needs to attack in order to do that in the following
Mhm.
turn. And
And
then
we
if
have
they
the 2Ks to back this up, yeah.
exactly. And we get to potentially keep our Thatch alive too, which can help us go for game if our opponent's hand goes down to what, 6 cards, no active Dawn. That does sound doable to kill through.
I agree that would be really huge. I don't quite know how many hand cards are in Scamsy's hand, but
I'm gonna go north of 8.
yeah, it seems like it's north of 8. It's a lot of cards. They might not have the Whitebeard. I feel like from what I've scouted out of the hand, it doesn't seem like they have the Whitebeard. But they could just be taking their time, taking 8 cards in hands. A lot of different lines you can think of. Separating out 4. All right. What is that? Jet Pistol, Blocker Marco. Could be anything.
It'd be so. Have we seen any of the one ofs yet today? The Radical Beam, the Marcos, the 9-drop Whitebeard? I don't think so. I don't
I
think we've
don't
seen any
think no,
today.
not in our previous matches so far. We haven't seen none of that. Yeah, you're right.
Hopefully we could see the magic of those powerful one ofs. Why they're like one ofs.
Yeah, the 9-drop Whitebeard is such a powerful card. But what do you do? 4 Dawn signifies what? The Marco. It signifies Jet Pistol. Just trying to get whatever read we can.
Well, let's think about what is most ideal for Scamzy. Like, what are they thinking about? Like, they're probably going, okay, I have the potential to go for game here. How likely is it that to happen? They have 2 blockers, 1 Dawn up. Even if I go 8-8-8, I probably will only force 1 blocker and like a random guard point out of their hand.
Mhm,
So I think this thatch swing here is like, can I go for game? Am I able to
mhm,
go for game? Do you commit 2 cards from hand to go for this? Because if you do, I'm going to play something that gets rid of your blockers, and then I'm going to go ham with my leader into yours, and then I'm going to say have 16 or go away.
mhm.
Um, I think this could be a good attack to block if you're Whitebeard, or it could be a good attack to guard point.
I think you
Um,
guard point here. I think it's too easy to guard point, especially since you don't have Marcos to defend. You have a Marco in hand, but you're not really looking to save your event to Marco. The 1 Dawn commitment, it's too easy here. Yeah, and we're gonna see the guard point. Um,
it just protects against everything. And then we're going to go AK again into the leader. Again, I would say blocker here is probably best. You get rid of 1 card instead of 2, and you still get value out of that blocker. I will say the
Absolutely.
value of the blocker being a card plus 1 Dawn from the opponent isn't the best exchange I've seen from a 2-drop blocker in the past. But given that your hand has what, 4 uncounterable and then I think only
Yeah.
4 2Ks and a 1K,
Yep.
this AK attack looks pretty strong.
No, yeah, this is to the wire, and putting this Dawn commitment actually means that Whitebeard won't have the 9 gate this turn. So this last life will be going to their hand. So they will be staring down if they don't get game here, which it looks like they won't have game. Oh, we're going for the 2 cards instead of blocking.
Which I
I kind of
respect.
agree. You think so? I kind of agreed with you. I kind of agreed that this was the block. This was the turn to block because now um, I feel like a Marco can come down, clear 1, and then you just leave up the Dawn to defend yourself. Or another
So
8.
So the way I think about it is, and oh my gosh, this Whitebeard player on the left just passed their turn. They have a huge event hand. I'm sure it's not possible to go for game here as Team June Goons, but I see a couple of lines of play being unlocked now because you blocked the second one. I
Mhm,
didn't think about this, but if you counter the first one and you force more Dawn to go on your opponent's leader, now it becomes way more valuable for you to use that blocker. Whereas if you went block and then counter, they probably could have gone way bigger and forced way more counter out of you. Whereas I just need 2 cards for this. Does that make sense?
oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
I could see that line of play being good in that exact scenario, which is what happened here. And now that we have 2 rested characters on our opponent's board that are super scary, Ace becomes so strong right here. Reducing both the King Do and the Thatch by 3,000 and then swinging all at that could be a super powerful play here because we know our opponent's hand is full of event cards. Or we could just,
You
wombo
think
go 18 with Thatch and then go 6. That's not off the table because we have 0 event cards in hand. We still have a
yeah.
blocker in play. There's a world where we can actually stop our opponent next turn from beating us.
So,
So
yeah, I don't
who
know.
knows?
Like, my heart always tells me to just go for game. I see a Whitebeard at 0 life. I mean, they have Dawn up. It
They
looks
have
like they
6
have
on up and like 7 cards. it's a
yeah, it's
it's a
something
little
like that.
scary. I don't
Alright,
know.
so We already know they went through 1 guard point, so they could at worst case scenario, they have 3 guard points in Red Beam, right? Or I guess they could also be running Red Hawk. So if you're playing the mindset of, yeah, every card in their hand is an event, you can just go for the ace board that you were saying.
And as some people at home can see on the upper left-hand corner, Team Scam Z's Zoro has been blacked out a little bit. That signifies that their Zoro player has lost, meaning Team Jungoons is officially up 1 game. They only need to win 1 more to actually take this match, and that could be this Whitebeard game. So definitely keep an eye on who wins this game. It could be the deciding game.
Oh, it's exciting. Man, the Zoromir, they're known for going fast. This is a tough turn for Jungoon's Whitebeard, though.
The only question that needs to be answered is if you don't win the game this turn, can you survive next turn? And the answer is always against Whitebeard, maybe. I think if you're not going for game, like you're just committed to like reducing your opponent's hand, going for ace, going after the character cards is going to be so huge. That has to be what you're going for here. But obviously, Team Jungoos is playing the game. They know more than we do. They might go for something else. Let's see what they choose. They go for the Machino. They're going to use the Machino to make Izo stronger. Oh, they're going for game.
Oh, yeah. They're
going for game. They're going to do a bunch of 6K swings, and then they're going to attack.
So what is this? Izo's 2 plus 6?
Plus 6 plus 1. So that's what? 8. That's 9K. There's the Red Hawk KOing the Fossa. That Red Hawk is so huge getting rid of that blocker. We have to go for game now.
Yeah,
otherwise
absolutely.
We're done. But I think we left enough down up to go for the ace play still if we needed to clear the board to make it more possible to do that.
Yeah, I still don't. I think at that, but like with the Fossa gone, you just can't go. You just can't. I just don't believe that you should. You should just go for the defensive play. I think you just all this dawn. You go for game. If they have it, they have it. You already used 2Ks, two 2Ks for this play too.
You have no events in hand. Like, yeah, there's no way Team Jungoons can survive the following turn. They just have to commit to going for game now.
Absolutely, you have to go for game. And this is going to be 9. I think that was 3 dawn committed to this attack.
I think we're trying to play around guard points.
So this will be 2 cards. Oh, they have so many cards in hand. I think it's I count at least 5 or 7. Oh, they still might have 7 cards in hand.
Yeah, it's just too tough here in situations like these. Like, I think if Team Jungoons had more defense in their hand, like they didn't have 4 uncounterable cards, going for that defensive play with
Red Hawk
would have been way better.
So still not getting, and then we just send it. This 12. Is double
guard point makes you 12.
Jozu gets you over, yeah, and they're gonna give it up. So it's it's gonna come down to the Kinemon versus Katakuri. Double Red Hawk, man, that's wild. They had such a big counterable hand. I guess I think at the end of I think the play was still to go for game there, just because.
You can't stop 16, right? Like, I get because your opponent's always going to be able to Red Hawk one of your attacks and get rid of your Fossa there as your blocker. So your opponent can always just swing 16 next turn when you're tapped out, even if you go for the ace play. So, like here we just saw a really good example of in the late game, one of the Whitebeards drew their defensive pieces while the other Whitebeard did not. And as we've been saying all day, Whitebeard is a deck that plays on curve, and their curve is the craziest offense you've ever seen, backed up by one of the craziest defensive cores you've ever seen, being a 6K base leader, having all these powerful event cards that can just decimate boards, give you as much survivability as you need just to get one more turn in. And one more turn in is all you need to just savage your opponent's life. So very, very close mirror match. Like you said, Katakuri versus Kinemon. The wild card matches are going to be deciding it. I actually don't know of that matchup who shakes out more preferred.
That's a weird matchup.
Big Mom is an absolute house against anything Kinemon can do.
And then 8-drop Katakuri is such an answer to the Odins or the kids they could be playing.
Yeah,
I almost want to pretend that there was a world where you could have put 3 Dawn under Fossa, done the ace play, and then went for board that turn. That way the 3 Dawn would get Fossa out of Red Hawk range. And then you could go for board with ace still. So you'd have 3 attacks into both the King Do and the No, but I think the Whitebeard would still have enough counterpower to get out of all of that and still maintain the board. I think it's just that the cards lay where they lay. There was no playing around what transpired.
And when your opponent leads up like that much Dawn, it's really
Mhm.
tough to tell, like, is it a bluff? Did they just have no better play? Because they know if they go for any actual like aggressive card, they won't have enough defense to survive. So they're just
Mhm.
pretending like they can stop my next turn. Like, it's always really tough in those situations. I would say it's better to, put your opponent on having it and then going, is there a play I can do that gives myself the best chance to win? Given that we did not double block the turn before with both of our Fossas, it was just hard to maintain our defense long enough, is
Yeah.
what ended up shaking up. Because if we got double the value and kept all the counters we possibly could for next turn and bluffed some like event cards with the ace play, it would have probably eaten up enough of our opponent's hand at the very least, or gotten rid of their board state to the point where they probably can't pressure us for game no matter what.
I'm inclined to agree with that. Yeah.
The Whitebeard's a super explosive mirror for sure, because eventually
Especially
someone's going to zero. It's
Mhm.
just a matter of how quick.
Especially with how free it's so easy to get rid of a 2K body when you're playing against red. And I guess we saw Red Hawk gets rid of it. We have Marcos that get rid of it. We have uh Robbins, and there's a ton of things to get rid of, little bodies like that. So taking the blocks when you can is typically the better play. And we find out that Katakuri actually took the Odin matchup. So this is our first game where the stream winner isn't actually the team winner, I believe.
No, Scam Z won both those games, right? Because the person that won off camera was the Zoro for Team June, but the Whitebeard player on the left won this
Oh,
round.
you're right. Okay,
And
I'm
and
caught up.
and their team Scam Z, which won last round.
All
So
right,
good
the
congratulations
stream.
to Team Scam Z once again. The combination of Katakuri plus Whitebeard and Zoro is proving to be very, very strong. Love to see
Right.
it.
Oh man, what are they playing for again? I think. All right, so Bandai events are always goaded, right? For signing up or for participating and stuff, right? Just for entering any of these Bandai events, you get this one in particular, you get a participation reward of a Dawn pack, right? You also get a participation pack, or event pack. I believe it's event pack 2, the one that comes with Altart Raizo, Altart, Suzuki,
Sasaki, and then
Sasaki,
what is it? Sanji,
Promo Sanji, Promo General
Suru.
Frankie, and Suru Altart 2K.
Yeah, very, very cool. Plus those beautiful 3v3 cup stamped Straw Hat Crew promo cards, Usopp uh for top 32, I believe, and Chopper for top 64, and then I think Rono Azoro for top 6, and then of course Serial Luffy for team 1 and team 2.
Yeah, and the entire team gets a copy of these. So
That's
6
right.
Luffys will be going out, for example, to throughout this event. So kind of cool.
196 choppers or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, they all have like a unique stamp. Like the pricing, like Bandai's pricing has always been pretty good. Like they support this game really well through their events, and like it's always worth going. It's always worth showing up, even if you scrub out. You don't consider yourself. You don't have much confidence in yourself in this game. It's always These events are always fun. They're always worth just their entry fee. They pay you back in dividends. Just getting the Dawn already is the value for entering your tournament, and then
Oh,
you get. Mhm.
especially 3-on-3s. Like, I'm a huge fan of a team event no matter what the game is, because nothing makes me happier than winning as a team or losing as a team. Like, losing, being baby raged with all your best buds is the best feeling in the world. Famously, I've entered a lot of team tournaments in my time,
Mhm.
and I think like one time in a certain game, 3 years in a row, me and my team got ninth place.
Oh,
Ninth place for it,
no.
and it was a top cut event too. And what was so funny about, I think the last year it happened, we left early because we were so mad. We're like, again, that we just immediately left. Apparently, one of the teams had to leave and drop out, and they're like, "Hey,
Ninth
where is
place?
Steven's team? You are
Oh,
now
no.
in eighth place and can play in day two, in the top cut, which was happening the same day."
Oh,
And
wow.
and we weren't there. And I got a bunch of messages being like, "Will they wait for us?" And the answer was no. I was like,
Oh, that's so
no. And then
sad.
we had an extra, just like terrible time. But yeah, team events are super fun. And like you said, it's going to be super worth it for every team to show up, play their
Mhm.
best, and get some awesome prizes. Team Scam Z, 2-0 on stream. Maybe we're their good luck charm. Who knows?
Maybe.
But we're going
Yeah.
to go ahead and take a little bit of break now before round 4 gets started. Don't go anywhere, y'all. And get ready for
Think
some
this
more
is
One Piece action.
this is gonna be an extended break because,
Oh, that's
as
right.
most tournament people know, round 3 is that time of the day where, people decide if they wanna continue on in the tournament or not. So, there's some, paperwork that needs to get, sorted out when they do that. So it's gonna be a little longer break, but we'll see you guys for round 4, soon enough.
Also, for everyone in real person, they get also a lunch break as well, which is super lovely.
Welcome back, everybody, to the One Piece card game TCG 3v3 tournament hosted here by Play TCG in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Risu the Squirrel, co-hosted by TrueChampionSteven. How's it going, Steven?
It's going good. I have a full belly of food, which I hope everyone in Monroeville also has. And I'm excited for this round 4. I believe the options we were given were Law versus Newgate or Newgate versus Law. And, I think we just have to go Newgate versus Law, right? It's the obvious choice.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I don't think that's what I wanted the other one, but whatever. I guess we'll agree with you this one time.
So, yes, on the left here, we have Team Hendy's Goods playing Newgate Nami, which I'm in love with because I love that deck, and Law. And on the right, we have Team Dilhu.
Who?
There's a question mark there
It's a
for a reason.
question.
We've got Law, Zoro, and Newgate once again. And we're starting off electric here. Law went first, played a turn 1 chopper, and then it looks like Newgate played another turn 1 Ezo, is my guess, adding the 2K counter Jozo to hand.
Yeah.
And we'll just pass turn, take the first life card.
Yeah. All right. So we're watching this matchup again. The first time Law wasn't able to establish 5 cost Law on board to like really get their value engine started. But I've been seeing this a lot. Like the early just heavy attack. Here we attack for 8 or 7, I should say, but we were able to establish the 2K counter Brook to not only establish a body but put 2 Dawn under a leader to attack for 7. And we actually take the life on the Whitebeard side this early. And we're going to take this life early on the Law side as well, going down to 3 life already. And
Ooh, there we see the 4-drop 6K vanilla, another one
yeah,
for
Speed
Whitebeard Pirates.
Jill.
Yeah, Speed Jill. And now Law's board. I know it's been like lightning quick, but this is completely different from round 1. We have access to a Bonnie to increase our hand size and maybe even get that 5-drop Law that you were talking about, one of the key cards for this strategy. And a big decision that we made last turn, which I'm a huge fan of, is the decision to keep Tony Chopper, a second one within our hand that we can maybe save for the late game to have some more extra late game defense. Because obviously, if you've ever played against Law before, every time you swing at them for any number, they're going to take as many cards as possible. So that way they can build their board and shambles as quickly as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I want to see the Law players still prioritize offense if possible and not build like the craziest board ever. Like, there's really no need to shambles this turn if you have to like overextend to do it. But if you
Yeah,
want to go like a Nami and then plus a Bonnie to like bring out your hand and then go like 6K swing with both Law and your Brook, I'm here for that. Those sound like a good combination of plays to me.
I agree. So we took the starter deck Rush Luffy off of the Nami play here. Looks like it actually bottom decked one of the blocker laws. So that's going to be tough. I wonder if it was almost better to go for especially if you're now essentially 10 cards deep, 20 or not 10 cards. You're like around 15 cards deep. You should have been expected to see a law in the first 15 cards. So not using Bonnie first is a little questionable in terms of statistics, but is what it is.
I think our team Dilhue player is going to be trying their best to actually get off the shambles this turn because now they have the 5-drop Luffy in hand, which is a super optimal target. Yes, it would have been better to have the Bonnie so that way you could get the value off that first, but this is just going to be so huge. You get those 2 6K swings like I talked about, but you get to actually preserve your Brook in the active position and not have it be swung back into on the following turn, which I think is really
Mhm.
strong.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point. And then the Luffy swing our attack actually connects. We take the life on Whitebeard's side, so we've taken 2 extra life early on the Whitebeard. With a Rush Luffy in play, that could be pretty game changing. Like they will be at 0 life without being able to protect it with a 9 drop Whitebeard after taking 2 life like that. And so any blockers here could just essentially be ignored by a Luffy, and just stack 10 Dawn under Luffy and attack for game could just be over early.
Yeah, and even if not, like you'll be in a position where you as the law player might have a couple of life left, as well as maybe some blockers that you can play on top of doing that big Luffy turn, and then go, you're still at 0 life. You now have like 5 or less cards in hand. I'm just gonna do all this again next turn because I'm law, and you're going to lose.
Mhm.
So
And
yeah, like you said, Newgate being on only 6 Dawn with 2 life cards in play is super huge right now.
And then the Speed Jill attacks into Luffy, which we love to see it. It's essentially like having an extra. We're attacking 6 into 6 now instead of 6 into 5, which makes it way easier to counter. But we're actually going to block the leader swing from Whitebeard. And we're going to Marco and choose to KO a Brook instead of the Chopper. That's interesting. I feel like getting rid of the Chopper would have been a little better.
Maybe just trying to like slow down the potential aggression from the law play on the following turn, because you are being, pelted turn after turn after turn here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not impossible to see that Brook going for an attack, especially after you kind of cleared some of board already by having a chopper come down. Oh, there we see the 5-drop law revealed off the Bonnie, but I also think we revealed the second copy of Monkey D. Luffy, the 5-drop. That might
We
be
also saw
super
Rad Beam
appealing.
too, I think, which all of those are super. Oh wait, no, never mind. The Straw
Yeah, I
Hat
think
on.
Rad Beam is just Straw Hat
Yeah,
first,
it's
sadly.
got Pistol. I was confusing Pistol for a second.
Yeah,
I think
Pistol is super notable.
yeah, I think it's just you don't have a law in hand. You take law every time here. You
I know
especially
we have a second Brook in hand, and I do kind of love the idea of going like Law, bounce Bonnie, play Brook, use Brook's effect, increase Luffy to 8, swing it lead, play a 1-drop, and then I don't think we'll be able to shambles, but we do grab the 5-drop Law, which is going to be just huge as being a
yeah.
blocker in general, but then it's
Mm-hmm.
also going to be super huge. Oop, we just flashed a guard point there. That's a little sad. Oh
Rip.
well.
Yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, you also have beige in hand, so we have an efficient way to get to 5 characters, and then yeah, shambles into law as you said. But I mean, recycling Nami could be really good too. Your opponent, this last life kind of doesn't matter to me, especially. I don't think you win this turn, right? I don't think there's a world where you essentially win this turn. So you could try to go for like yes, attack speed Jill. This is gonna be an 8K attack into speed Jill, and then the Luffy can go into next, or you just leave the Luffy back. But
Yeah, the reason why tagging Speed Jail here is is so huge is that it either guarantees forces a card out of the
mhm,
Whitebeard's hand, or they lose the Speed Jill, both of which is great, because if you just attacked life, they would just take it because they're going to 0 again next turn anyway.
mhm.
And
And
they also have like
I
what,
think they did
11
follow
cards?
your line of play. I think this is the Brook that was played on the top of the screen, or was it's a
Yeah.
red card?
Yeah.
Oh, it
They
was the
went Brook,
Brook,
so
yeah.
that way they can add it back to hand. And now they're gonna bounce the Bonnie, play the Brook again, give 2 more Dawn to the Luffy, and attack 8 into Speed Jill once again. Super huge, super aggressive. We
So
love seeing it come out of the
aggressive,
law.
yeah.
When you have 3 life against only 3 characters that are probably gonna be super aggressive, and you want to eat your opponent's 11 card hand, this is what you have to do against Whitebeard. At a certain point, their life becomes no longer worth it until they're at 0. He
Mhm.
guaranteed will not have to face a Whitebeard next turn, a 9-drop Whitebeard. So you're just
Oh,
good to
that's
go.
2 cards.
Yeah, but I think it was 2 2Ks
It
actually.
was 2/2K, so you over countered.
Very telling.
Very telling. And Whitebeard this is Whitebeard's last life, so they'll be taking it at the end of this turn, going down to 0 life, staring
There's
down
the
3
ace.
life. Oh, Ace, Luffy, and I think they chose Brook
No,
or
yeah, I
the
think they
Law.
chose the 5-drop Law and the
Yeah,
Luffy. Yeah,
you're right. That would just make sense.
because a 6K blocker, who knew, is really good. Let's make it a
Oh,
3K
so
blocker
good.
instead.
Let's get rid of that bad. But on the Law side, if they attack Luffy, I think you just let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, you have more than enough attackers on the next turn if you needed it in the form of Law plus your leader. Your opponent will be at 0 life with no blockers of their own. Take as
Mhm.
many of these life cards as you want. It doesn't even matter at this point, and you're just trying to set
Ooh, a
up for the
stunning
most
card.
amount of damage you can next turn.
All right, 7 at life, and yeah, this is starter deck Nami off the top. So we're
Oh,
down to 1 life on the Law side, and then We still have all our Dawn. No, we played the ace, so we have 1 Dawn left. Okay, 6K at lead. If we have the 2K, now's the time to do it. I think we do not want to go to 1 life or 0 life for sure.
Having these double blockers and more blockers in hand kind of makes me want
But
to
he
take
doesn't have
this
a
life, if I'm being really honest with you. But I do think it's a little too dangerous given how much removal just exists in every single red deck. A simple Marco or like even a potential Vista. I don't think most Whitebeard decks play Vista anymore, but
Ooh.
that's still possible. And we do
Chooses
get
to
double
pitch 2
cards
cards instead of just blocking with the chopper. I find
because you want to
interesting.
maintain cards on board and how much Dawn you have on your following turn, right? So that way you can use as many as possible to go for a game with your power increases, right?
That makes sense. So we're at 0 life now on the Whitebeard side, and no blockers. But no Luffy. But the 1 Dawn up. Is there world we win? We did do sizable damage to the hand, but I imagine the
One
team is
Dawn up.
still.
I think it's totally possible we can go for a game here, but I think you have to be very strategic about it. So I think like it's smart to, if you want to try to go for a shambles first, commit as much Dawn as you want to for that before you start attacking.
Mhm.
If you just think you have enough as it is, just throw 9 Dawn on, sorry, just throw 8 Dawn on your blocker law, swing 14, and then have a random 6K left over for your leader law to see if it's enough. You have 1 blocker up, 1 life, 4 potential attacks. Yeah. I definitely think that if Law doesn't win this turn, it's kind of over on the following turn. So trying to just to like maintain that balance and figure out the best way to go for a game this turn is probably the best thing they can do.
I agree. Just what is that way? We know they don't have, they have a guard point in hand. They have it's a bunch of, it's 1 cost. They have a beige in hand.
Wow.
And then another 1
That's
cost.
9 cards.
9 cards. Is that what we counted?
Yeah, 9 cards plus one Dawn up. That's kind of hard to chew through. Maybe it is just smarter to build the wall then, actually, and just try to establish. Yeah, so Shambles is going to be bringing down
Oh,
the
we do have the
law.
second law.
Yeah, we
Oh,
drew
okay.
turn, and then we're going to like bounce Nami, play down Brook again, give 2 Dawn to the leader, make the leader an
Okay.
AK swing, make the leader a, what is that?
A
What is that?
lot. It was 1,
12? I think
2.
it's 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12K swing.
Wow. This is
Yeah,
a bit.
so okay, so this is the plan of I'm gonna have 4 blockers plus 1 life against your 5 attackers.
Mhm.
Good luck.
And we have the 1 Dawn up for
Guard point.
we have the 1 Dawn up for guard point,
Yeah.
which is in hand. Actually is in hand. But we did have to give up we had to play a 2K counter, which this game has been pretty rough on him on 2K counters.
All right, so we got 8, 10, 12,
12. So meets it,
and
beats it.
beats it.
All right, but
Ooh,
that
a blocker.
yeah, that took that ate the hand though. Next, now Whitebeard is under. I feel like Whitebeard needs to either establish blocker here or
A second ace.
a second ace.
A
Yeah,
second ace feels very game winning to me because you just go second ace,
mm-hmm,
both the laws get reduced, the blocker laws, and then you
mm-hmm,
just swing out with like 7s at the opponent's leader. And
mm-hmm.
then I just think it's over, right? Because you either clear their entire board to the point where all they have left is their leader, which maybe you could still even stop a 15K swing depending on what event cards you got to keep in your hand or not.
How many cards are left in this hand? Still like 6. Why do I think it's still 6 cards? Wow.
Oh, well, I guess actually no, because if you just did ace, they would still have 4 blockers for 4 of your attacks. And you
Yeah.
just have 1 more attack that can actually cause damage given how much life,
Mm-hmm.
given how much Dawn you'll have access to. So maybe ace is actually too big of an overcommitment given how many blockers there are. But simply removing one of the blockers, like playing, I don't know, Fire Fist, or even, I don't even think Whitebeard plays Fire Fist, but like a copy of Marco, 5-drop Marco, just to get rid of the chopper or the beige. Just seems
Would
like
be
so much
huge.
Dawn that you're gonna not have now to go for
You won't
game
be able to
against
go
the
for
obvious guard
game.
point that you know is there. Like because of that flash earlier, the
Oh
Viper
yeah.
player knows there's a guard point there. So we're just like, oh my gosh, I can I do
Yeah,
this?
how
I
do you
don't
play
think
around?
so.
Yeah. No, no, that's absolutely true. Like, how do you commit your Dawn right here to, because, well, do you lose? Is there a world where you, like, if you can establish 1, maybe 2 blockers, do you lose here? I don't necessarily think that's true either. I think, like, depending on your hand, you still have 6 cards. I'm counting 6. 6 cards in hand, that to where you could just still like not like, oh man, I lost my point. My point is that I don't think it's a necessity that you lose next turn.
Yeah, exactly. Like two attacks are at least 6K, and then you have 10 Dawn active with no blockers. Like if you don't have any blockers to make the play of shove 10 Dawn on something swing less appealing, it's kind of over, I think, for
Okay,
Whitebeard.
so
Because six
they
cards
need to
will
have the blocker
equal that.
absolutely then.
Yeah, they
So
need to have a blocker, which they got rid of. So that might have been it.
yeah, they
I'm,
attacked
I'm
with, which is also telling, right? Like giving up the blocker is kind of huge, right?
it's
Because I think even if you had to pitch a 2K instead of the blocker, a blocker would give you more value than a 2K.
exactly because a blocker could be um
More
like
done. Yeah.
it either just stops a gigantic attack that you can't do, or it commits more Dawn from your opponent that they could have used to just pump something up and make it stronger, which would equal
Yeah.
counter power from your hand. So I'm a huge fan, especially in these later stages of the game when like every single turn could be a deciding turn, of holding on to as many blockers as humanly possible.
Yeah, because being able to draw, like I think I mentioned in the last game, being like the Whitebeard that is able to last the whole game, and then on that last crucial turn defensively, you just drop down 3 blockers and hold up 3 for the guard points of the radical beams you have in your hand is always the game winning play. Like Law has an answer with a Rush Luffy, which they used earlier, and they bottom decked another one, so there's no guarantee they play a third even or even drew into the third. So that's
Plus,
gonna
we
be
saw like that play you're describing play 3 blockers in a single turn. That's essentially what Law did last turn.
yeah.
And here we're seeing it pay off dividends because, well, yes, we had an opportunity to go for game. Our opponent had 11 cards in hand plus 1 Dawn up.
Yeah.
Not very likely given the 6K base defensively. So let's get as much as we can, do a 12K swing, but then also build our defenses as high as we can. Do the perfect middle ground play for hopefully the maximum consistent return in wins and see if it's enough. And so far, it's looking like it might be.
It might be. I think there
Because
is
Whitebeard is
another ace
thinking.
in hand on the I see a Makino, I see
That far
Makino
card looks like an ace
Otama.
to me, or a Zoro. It's either
Yeah,
a
the
Zoro
far
or an
right
ace.
card looks like an ace to me. And then it's a Makino Otama and maybe a rad beam. They might have found the rad beam, it's hard to tell. But they need they might just lose. I think they need to either go for game here or just have the blocker. But I don't think they have the blocker.
It's definitely interesting, and I'm definitely excited to see how the rest of our games shake out. Like Zoro versus Nami is actually a pretty famous matchup. I love that matchup personally as Nami, and it's
Really?
actually looking like we just got that decided. Actually, Nami won over Zoro as I was saying that. Wow, I just
Really?
brought that in.
That's
So
interesting.
Team Hendy's Goods is actually up a game right now.
Yeah. So it's worth while Whitebeard's assigning his because this is make or break for Whitebeard. They have to think this turn out. Like, so what makes you think that Nami is a good matchup into Zoro?
Well, because it's kind of like classically Zoro has to swing into Nami, and the worst thing that Zoro can do is do a bunch of tiny 5K swings that eats up your hand of what's it called? Event cards. But a lot of the really cool Nami decks, like the one we saw win over in OPO4, happened to play a lot of 1-drops, and that was pretty
Understood.
sick.
So we're doing the play that we said at the beginning of the turn. Play ace minus 3K off of each of the laws. And now just we're attacking speed Jill for 6 into life.
Oh, I'm also getting confirmation that we were incorrect before with the graphics ahead of time. Team Dilhue was the person playing Nami, and they were victorious. So they have 1 win,
Oh,
whereas the other team, Team Henry's Goods, does not have any wins. So if this Law player wins this turn, this game, that Team Dilhue is our winner for this round, for round 4.
I don't think you said that in a questioning tone enough, but we'll let it slide, homie.
Right. Dilhue?
Mhm.
But here, yeah, you're right. The ace play is being made. Those laws are now super tiny blockers, which means the board will get cleared. And we
Mhm.
could still, in theory, leave up 3 Dawn plus. Because that's the one thing that this play does do. It may not guarantee victory, but it does guarantee the lowest amount of aggression being done back to you on the next turn, even if you don't win.
Yeah. So
Depending on
3
how the Law player chooses to counter out or protect whatever they have.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we're still so Law is still deciding on what's their answer to this speed
Speed
drill
deal
attack.
attack.
Yeah.
It's just 6K, which would require 2 cards from their hand or their guard point, both of which is pretty bad.
Yeah, their hand's not great. But anything you can do to avoid using one of these laws, I think, is way too valuable. I think either because they have 3 Dawn committed. I think they're gonna use the 2
Oof.
cards.
And now our
That's
opponent has perfect information. Our opponent now knows the only card in our hand is guard point. Hopefully, Team Hendy's Goods realizes the kind of cruel thing they can do, because now they have an opportunity to never commit any more Dawn to
Mhm.
any of their cards. Or if they do, commit like 1 Dawn to their ace and force a block to happen. Slash just attack for 6 every single time and either waste a block, slash waste a guard point, or get the damage in.
I think I think the play was to take this life to begin with.
I think on that attack, you could have blocked with the chopper as well, both of which seemed pretty good to me.
Yeah, I think well there is a point in this game too where like you want to bait your opponent to use as much as possible. You want to make your opponent feel like, even if it may not necessarily be true, you want to make your opponent feel like they have to go for game here. So there's a world where like, okay, yeah, he's gonna attack with the Whitebeard, and then maybe he drew the 2K, maybe he didn't. Looks like he's not gonna commit Dawn to this attack,
He
but
doesn't have to anymore. Like, he straight up does not have to. Like, the worst that could happen is you block with one of your laws on a 6K swing, use a guard point, and if your last card in life had a counter on it, you can actually protect it and keep it alive for the next turn.
oh, true.
That's like the one thing I think Whitebeard's thinking about right now is, do I commit a Dawn to this? It all depends on how many event cards that they have in hand. They could very well have at least 1 or 2, which could, if they did, probably guarantee the fact that they survive next turn if all these blockers go away. We know for sure if we commit no Dawn that 2 blockers can live.
This is a
So here
chopper
we
block.
have the guard
Oh,
point coming
okay.
down, perfectly blocking the ace, and now we get to have at least 2 blockers remain in play. Like, that is so huge here.
That's actually insane. Yeah.
And that means
Um,
2 more attackers that we can
yeah,
just go for
exactly.
game, essentially.
Unless they play Vista, but I think playing Vista would
It just seems like a waste.
yeah, no, it
Better
would.
counter at this point.
So this next attack from the leader will get rid of, I imagine, Chopper. We'll block with Chopper. And then yeah, now we're staring down 2 blocker Law and then Law leader himself. Yep. Easy take. So now Law's gonna have to go for it. So what's the attack order for you as the Law player? For me, my heart tells me to just go 15 leader and then 6/6.
Yeah, the fact that they're both 6 and they require 0 investment is pretty huge. I guess like just do the math. Like, how much does 14 demand out of
The
a
hand.
Whitebeard player? Like 4K from Radical Beam, 3K from
Oh, Makino.
Makino, swing with Izo, force.
Oh,
Oh, it's
the last
only
card in hand.
5K.
2 Dawn.
2 Dawn for a blocker. There
Oh,
we
we
see
do
the
have the
blocker.
blocker. Okay.
That's pretty.
Oh,
Now
but only 2
the
cards in
game
hand,
changes. Now we
and
only have
that's
2 cards in hand.
yeah. I think that's the math is quite simple here.
It's
8.
888.
Yep, 8,
Boom.
and then rest. They did the math right. It was a
Red
it was Otama and a Red Hawk, but with tapped out, you only have 2K, and then you just win the game from
So we
there.
would have had 4 cards in our hand. Our 4 cards would have been Makino, Otama, blocker, plus Red Hawk. I think if it's Otama. Ooh, okay. So I think I don't know. I think the Whitebeard player had an opportunity there to do a lot of damage had they committed, because the choice is either do I Red Hawk or do I blocker, and that's a pretty tough gamble there. I would say that the blocker, weirdly enough, is worse. So because if the choice is to stop an attack that is 8K,
Yeah.
Red Hawk can already do that. And that's probably the most you're going to get out of a blocker is an AK swing being stopped.
Yeah.
But there you guys go. Team Dilhue 2-0 against Team Hendy's Goods is victorious with the win from Whitebeard and the win from Nami. Shout out to all the Nami players out there that are going strong. I'm a big blue fan, and I
That's
definitely
so
think against a
exciting.
more aggressive deck like Zoro, you can definitely control the tempo of the game, force them into a super unfavorable situation, and then out of nowhere get like a random Zeph or a random Usopp swing to mill yourself out the amount you need to just inevitably win the game, which is super cool.
Yeah, no, like to your point earlier about the first of all, like Law versus Whitebeard, it's cool to see that we saw the other side of it. Law saw their blocker laws, were able to cycle the way they wanted to, establish blockers in exactly the way they wanted to, which allowed them to just stabilize and live the life they wanted to live that game and win. But to your point earlier, like you were saying that Zoro or the Nami versus Zoro matchup, I always felt like there was two lines in how to beat Nami, which is one of the reasons why once people figured it out, that's why we don't see Nami as much. And the two lines are always swing 9, so you always get over a love beam and another card, and you demand a love beam or another card from your opponent. Typically, that's like one line of thought. But the other line of thought I've always thought was you attack 5k repeatedly, which is always really good at. Sure, you'll give them the value of like, oh, love beam, but like you just treat it like every attack is one card out of hand, and eventually they'll run out.
That's why we
So
see a lot more character focused Nami decks that play the Mr. Ones, that play the Buggies, that play the Zephs, that can actually attack back at those really tiny boards that Zoro does. I'm sure that happened in the Nami game where like you
oh, I
had
see.
like 2 rested 1-drops against 2 Buggies, and you just go
Mhm.
buggy, swing into your guy, either lose more cards out of your hand and make it easier for my Zeph to hit you, or
Oh, okay.
make it so that way I can completely clear your board after the one turn you dump me 2 damage. And now from this point forward, I can perfectly stop you from any big swing you do, because anything that you try to replay won't kill me, because I'll be just adding more cards to my hand because you're taking more time to play cards rather than attack me, or you're just going to waste more cards in your hand that you could have used to stop my things like Zeph or Usopp from just outright milling me out. It's definitely interesting sort of how Nami has evolved to deal with that kind of play style of more poke aggression rather than just straight up 10k plus every single turn with every attack. I definitely think that the long games that Nami creates can be very challenging for players to navigate if they're not used to it, which is maybe why we saw the Nami player, weirdly enough, win first out of all the red decks that were playing against each other. That was a funny thing to
Mm.
notice, by the way, was Nami
Yeah.
was the first deck to finish. That is a rare sight, so I'm definitely happy to see it.
I would love to know if they were playing the more character aggressive focus that you're saying, because traditionally all I've ever seen is the
Like all
event
event
focused
cards.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just going for all defense and all mill all the time. But there's a lot of good cards in there, especially with Nojiko's being able to balance up value your opponent in terms of Dawn commitment, and then just Zeph and all the like Usopp being Rush and Blue. Like I feel like people don't respect the fact that Blue does have a Rush card nowadays.
And blue can make your opponent's hand so small sometimes, like 3 cards, and then all of a sudden the 7k Zeph swing is just guaranteed because they're at 5 life. They're like, I really want another card. So
So
I'll let you mill 7, and then that's when it's over. Yeah. But either way, Team Dilhue
Still
just
Hugh?
won round 4. Congratulations to them. We love
Mhm.
seeing a Nami do well, and we love seeing a Law do the Law thing.
Yeah.
Always fun, always a trip. We'll be taking a quick little break here, you guys, as we get ready for round 5. So don't go anywhere for some more One Piece 3-on-3 action. Good news, everyone. Number 1, we're back with round 5 of the Monroeville, Pennsylvania One Piece 3-on-3 event. And good news number 2, we have a non-red deck to show you guys today. I'm very excited because it's going to be Blue Doflamingo versus Edward Newgate for round 5. I've been talking all day how much I love the blue color and how good of a matchup we both think Dofi is against Whitebeard. Let's go ahead and show off how cool that could be, depending on how this matchup shakes out.
Yeah, Dofi, like, so the key thing about Dofi is that they have access to some solid cards that are aggressive, like the vanilla Moria always comes to mind, being able to just for free play, not for free, but off the top of your deck, be able to play a 6k attacker that will be able to attack into Whitebeard constantly without any Dawn commitment. Very valuable, and not to mention, like, if they attack, it's a body they have to respect. And then on top of that, like, again, Dofi's advantage is always that their offense comes from the top of the deck, which is not a resource that is in hand. And being able to keep that hand size for defensive plays allows them to keep up the defensive power that they need to beat Whitebeard. If you can't defend against Whitebeard, you're just going to eventually lose. So yeah, and then they have a really good suite of blockers too. Blocker Doflamingo, Trafalgar Law if they're still playing it. It's always iffy on that card. And then the Bo Hancock that draws you a card, the 3 drop, 4 drop. one Dawn Commitment, 5K blocker, draws you a card if you have less than 4 cards, keeping your hand full. Always
Yeah,
plus.
as long like as restrictive as the 7 Warlords of the Sea engine has been ever since set 1, it's been very, very potent at just continuously snowballing more and more value every single turn, to where if the opponent doesn't deal with it, it'll just get out of hand, because Dofi will have a continual slew of attackers that can be protected by the hand, or they're just going to continually
You
play more powerful cards out of their hand, like Dracul Mihawk, in the late game, because you focus so much on their character cards and not on their life, that now they can just establish this crazy strong body that gets rid of your scariest card and attacks you every single turn for 9, and most decks cannot easily deal with, especially
Yeah, not
Whitebeard.
even Whitebeard, yeah.
Oh,
But
and I think we're getting updates on the names for each team as well. We've got on the left, couldn't get Richard Yam with the Dofi player. And on the right, we have Polly to the Moon making a comeback. We saw them earlier
oh,
today.
so
They
they've
were
been winning
playing very
out.
well. Yeah, they're still
Wow.
undefeated. I believe at this point we only have 5 teams undefeated into this round 5. This is going to be super cool. Here we have Dovi starting off. We love seeing that. That means you can get the guaranteed 7K attack next turn with the Perona start to get the guaranteed potential 7
Busted.
Warlords and that stack of the deck to make your next couple of turns super cool. I see some Kumas up there, as well as maybe a 2K counter Mihawk. Kuma, if you play a big Pacifista engine in your deck, is really cool, especially against the Fire Fist decks of the world.
Yeah, I mean, like whenever I deck build, like nowadays, like Fire Fist is always the card I'm playing around. So especially when I'm playing yellow, I'm always looking at my Baron Tamagos. I'm looking at my Vanilla Yamatos, just because establishing those and making those like relevant to avoid Fire Fist or causing my opponent to have to combo to kill or to KO my stuff is always valuable. And
Mm-hmm.
we play a blocker Kuma off the top from the Doflamingo effect.
And here you see, like, in real time, what makes Dofi so strong against this leader. We've been talking all day about a lot of people choosing aggression over board setup as a good way to deal with the non-boat, 4 copies of 9-drop Whitebeard variant that we've been seeing ever since the recent update to the banned restricted list. And no deck sets up and aggroes at the same time better than Dofi does. Most decks have to pick one or the other to do during their turn. This deck can go, no. I'm going to play a body, and I'm going to attack you for big numbers and guaranteed damage over to
Right.
you. And this body is one that can replenish itself even if it gets removed, thanks to its ability to play a Pacifista from hand on KO.
Right, and I don't. Do they have? Did we snipe a peek at the hand? I don't know if they have the Pacifista just yet.
Well, we might find out, because if this Whitebeard player attacks the life, it might be just an automatic take, and it's going to
For
be an
sure.
automatic take.
Yeah, and Whitebeard taking the first life again, which is always crucial. We're down to 3
Already at 3
life.
life.
Yeah, and the Doflamingo at 4. Now we have blocker. Do we just go aggressive with our blocker this early? I think
I see
that
no
might be
reason
worth.
not to attack, right? We just go
Yeah.
2 down on our leader. We go. Maybe the one thing we can consider is if we have a copy of the 3-drop Doflamingo in our hand to play as a blocker. Otherwise, I can't think of any 3 drops that are worth it. We could also just choose to forgo Dofi's effect altogether. Swing 6.
And then
That could be more
establish a
consistent.
3-drop. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna go
Or
for 8.
we're going to go 8 and 6. Yeah, like that makes even more sense. Going maximum aggro, no need for more setup. We have Dofi to do that for
Play
us.
off the top. Oh,
Oh,
another blocker Kuma.
like you're saying, I don't see any Pacifistas in our hand, but you know what? I'll take 2 Kuma. That basically is the same thing.
And then 6. We have to counter out of this. There's no way we can take multiple turns at 0 life. Just like we saw in the law matchup, the Whitebeard had to take 2 early life, and it just created a couple turns where they were able to just chew through the hand.
It's so funny. Against most non-red matchups, Dofi almost always play a more snowbally game, way less aggressive than this, way more just utilizing all of its crazy value. Sure, you get to swing with Dofi every single turn, which is really strong, but most of the time you're not really concerned with giving your opponent that much life, because if you're fighting against something like Law, for example, you kind of don't want to be attacking their life that early all the time. But against these red decks, Dofi's basically a blue aggro deck. Like, that's basically what this thing is. It can establish so many bodies while dealing out so much damage. And like I said, once you get to your 9-10 Dawn turns, the Mihawks will be coming down. And if you're at 0 life, the turn before a Mihawk comes down, it's just going to
Oh my
be
god.
not fun for the Whitebeard player. So
That's
yeah, definitely
gross.
guarding there was super huge for Whitebeard. And now they're just like, what do we do? Do I just get rid of these Kumas and hope my opponent doesn't have Pacifista in hand? Because if
I
they
don't.
do, they get a stronger body that they have to commit less resources to in
Even
order to hit
then,
me.
if Whitebeard doesn't commit enough Dawn to these attacks, like I already see 2/2Ks in hand, at least minimum 2/2Ks in hand. So we can't just swing 6. 'Cause I would defend if you attack 6 into my Kuma here, I would defend with a 2K any day of the week, force you to
Mhm.
commit another attack. And even if I had the Pacifista in hand, I would defend these bodies.
Yep, Dofi protects its character cards. Like it does not care about its life at all, except for the last one, and it loves its character cards. It wants as many in play as possible because after that first like Perona or that first Don Quixote, it's really hard to get as much free value as you do from just those bodies. And when you have Kuma and you have the ability to protect it and give more times for yourself to draw your pacifistas, you just get like so much value over the
Mhm.
course of the entire game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this next turn will be the 5th card from Doflamingo 2 on their draw, so they won't be able to know what the top of their deck is anymore.
But they don't
I
even need to. Like, what? They'll
mm,
be at what 6 Dawn. They can just start hard playing things like Echo Moria. They can play another Perona and just do it again because they'll have enough Dawn to do both of those things. Like at this point, you're perfectly set up.
Alright, so we're gonna play the Ezo. We see a
So much
Red
more
Hawk in
information.
hand. I didn't quite see the rest of the search.
For a second, I was like, "Whiff? Excuse me."
Oh, that'd be painful if that was a whiff. Um, no, like, that's another thing, like, we haven't mentioned too much, but in the Law deck, whiffing in that deck feels awful. Like, there are things that lose you the games in One Piece that are kind of out of your control, and where it looks like we're taking 5-drop Marco.
Nice.
Uh, it looked like
Well,
yeah, 5-drop
maybe
Marco.
not super nice in this situation, but it's a good card to grab no matter what. We use the Haruta effect to make our Atmos stronger. Are we swinging 7 at leader or 7 at Kuma at this point? I think you just have to swing leader. But there we see the Kuma. Seven's a good number. Do we protect 2 cards?
If we have the Pacifista, we don't protect, but no effect. Alright, so we did not have the
I
Pacifista. I would have defended the card then.
I would have liked to have seen the defense as well because now we're telegraphing to our opponent we don't have pacifista in hand.
Yeah.
Maybe a misplay there to not go for the 7K swing, but I guess they really want to play that King Do on that curve.
Yeah, they
If
wanted
they
the
if they
curve.
had another like Atmos or another copy of like Speed Jill potentially, that might have been better because then you get to get rid of a body as well as play a pretty
Mhm.
strong character card. But if you want to prioritize King Do, that's fine too.
Yeah, no, I I follow the logic, especially since the 7 was already enough the first time. So it's 7, force your opponent to do the thing they didn't want to, which was clearly use 2 cards to defend Kuma.
But this
Um,
turn, we're probably not even going to attack the leader. Is my thing. Like we're probably just gonna play some cards, play some blockers, make
mhm,
Dofi 6, potentially 8, because we have the ability to go 3 Dawn on Dofi, swing into Atmos, use the effect, get a free +1. Put this Love Mellow as the second card so we can draw it next turn. You guys can
yep.
see how the blue deck starts to just continuously snowball more value. That to me, I think, is what the Dofi player is going to try to set up here on
Yeah,
this
would you
turn.
prefer Love Mellow, or would you prefer to be able to play at 3K worlds or 3,000 worlds here? Getting rid of the Kingdom before it even does anything would be really cool.
So we're thinking about the draw for next turn. So it all depends on what the opponent chooses to do with this King Do, if they
Oh my
attack
god,
with it or
no.
not. I think they have to attack with it. So we have the potential just to swing into it with this now Gecko Moria that we've played for our turn, and having
Mhm.
the guaranteed draw next turn of Love Mellow to basically rebuild our hand, depending on how many cards we lose on our opponent's next turn, is pretty huge to me.
Yeah, so this is gonna be 8 into the Atmos, and
Yep.
we got the Gecko Mori off of the effect, meaning the next card we draw will be that option card or event card. Yeah, going for life probably would have been a mistake here for sure, just because again the logic of the last life of Whitebeard typically, if you get to it early enough, is not something to go for because they're gonna chew it up themselves anyway, especially since they should be on 8 Dawn or they won't be at 9 Dawn next turn. I'm pretty sure they took 2 extra life, so there's no way that they have enough Dawn or yeah, last turn was 6 Dawn, so they should be at 8. Yeah, they'll be at 8 Dawn next turn.
Yeah. So there we go. Protecting the Atmos, reducing the amount of cards in hand, which I think was the ultimate goal of the Dofi player. That's what they
Mhm.
love because now if the YP player ends up with like 6 cards or less on the following turn, with Dofi being at 4 life, I feel like we have all the time in the world to just make all their quote unquote unstoppable defense pretty useless over time.
Yeah.
Let's see.
This is
Is
an
that a
ace.
ace? Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks like reducing
Ace.
Gecko.
Definitely reduce Gecko. Definitely reduce Kuma.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
now Haruda can like harass this board.
Oh yeah. Even yeah. So minus 3K. Yeah. I wonder if we have the Pacifist. I imagine we don't. I don't think the top deck
We
was
would
a
have had to
Pacifist.
draw it for turn, so
Mhm.
not likely.
So if you're Whitebeard, oh man, but it just feels like attacking board will just put you further behind what you actually want to be doing.
Yeah, but you'll be at 0 with what, 4 attackers in your face next turn? Like, I don't care how many cards you have in hand, you're gonna lose almost all of them. And if your opponent has 3 life after that, it's gonna be hard for you to get game consistently. And all they need is 1 more turn, and it's over for you. So really figuring out the right balance here of what can I stop from hitting me / what can I make sure never hits me, I think is pretty interesting.
With yeah, however, we don't have enough Dawn to establish blocker unless we have Chopper in hand. We don't have enough Dawn to establish blocker now. And
So we're using the
so
Haruda effect to make Izo a 3000, so that way we can still attack the Moria, which is pretty huge. This could be an easy block with the Don Quixote blocker, but we're just going to sacrifice the card in hand. Makes more sense to me because blockers are so valuable.
yeah, we want to force the Moria to eat up as many attacks as possible, and then we're gonna attack face, and then take the second card. It looks like it was a Jinbei off the top. That's nice. And then ace into. We're thinking about blocking with the Delphi. What's stopping you from just attacking for 14K this next turn though? Do they have enough cards in hand?
Let's see. It looks like 9. So I would say a full send with the leader, not great, but I would say an AK swing with the leader, play the top card of our deck, play another blocker, activate a 3000 worlds. That seems like with 3
Really
life,
good.
that seems
Get
like
rid of the Kingdo. That gets rid of Kingdo, which is
checkmate, right?
I think so. That gets rid of the Kingdo. So that's one of the biggest attackers gone. You rip the hand a little bit. Perona can even go into the Izo if you want. Yeah, it looks like that's what's. Oh, we're gonna take out the Haruda, which is
Yeah,
the one
Haruda's way more
generating some
valuable.
value. Yep.
Yeah, and it's looking like because we made that one Don committal to Perona, I think the most we're going to swing for with our Dofi this turn is 8, like we've been seeing.
Yeah.
But that's the
Activate
thing.
effect because we do know what's on the top, so we know if it's playable or not.
And that leaves us with 4 Don to activate 3000 worlds, which will just get rid of the King Do, and we get to leave our Kuma blocker up as a blocker, which is super huge. That's maybe like another reason why attacking the Kuma earlier rather than life, like committing that Don to your leader, might have been really strong instead of playing the King Do, because what you can do then is choose when that blocker gets activated rather than your opponent getting to choose when that blocker gets activated,
Yeah.
or you got rid of 2 more cards from your opponent's hand, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely would have liked to have seen that earlier. But if you had no other good attackers besides King Do, makes total sense to me.
Yeah. Do you go for no? You have to one of these attack. You have to attack leader, right? There's no reason for you to try to go for board a little bit here. You have a blocker plus 3 life. They have to connect 4 attacks next turn.
At this point, every single character card you attack, you are turning into a blocker. And in this stage of the game, I'm a big fan of players not giving their opponents blockers. So forcing them to lose more and more cards in their hand by attacking their leader seems most advantageous. I know that there's a lot of scary things on that board on the other side that can swing at you back, but I very
We're
much
going
doubt you're
8.
going to lose to them. And now we're going, okay, so this is a play of I'm so confident I will not lose to you next turn. I'm just going to go full send 15, no, 12 at leader.
This is 12. Yeah. Wait. No, it's 9 Dawn minus 8, so 5, 13?
13.
Yeah.
Bit of an awkward number, but I guess playing around guard point's pretty nice. And what's the point of leaving one
forces
down?
them to have, just forces them to have it, and then next turn they won't have much. So we're at 9.
So now we need 2 2Ks and a 1K.
Yeah, we're at 9. We're at 11, 13, and one more, last one. And I mean, there's a lot of value in chewing up the hand too. Like now, all those cards like that Atmos can't be played next turn. Right?
So, and yeah, only swinging for 8 into an obvious guard point maybe is unappealing. So maybe going for only 7 might have been good, but then you get 2K countered. Yeah, I definitely see where Dofi
Mm-hmm.
was coming from for the 3000 Worlds play, even though it seemed the most efficient, not being the most ideal, because
Right.
given the defensive nature of the Whitebeard's hand, he's assuming it's just not going to actually eat through enough to warrant a guaranteed game next turn. So
Yeah.
now he's like, okay, Whitebeard, go for
Now
as
you have
much
to
damage
win.
as you
Yeah.
want to this turn. I'm still not going to lose, and I'm going to do the same thing I just did this turn. Are you sure you can stop that?
This is so risky. I think there's a huge risk here though, because if Whitebeard actually establishes 2 blockers,
Which is totally
that's
possible.
that is just that's gonna be so shin breaking. Like that you can't like Dofi doesn't have a lot of answers to blockers other than like some Dawn and efficient plays, especially if it's the Fosses. For 2 Dawn, your opponent will for 4 Dawn, your opponent will play 2 blockers, and it's gonna cost you 4 Dawn to get rid of one of them.
This is like maybe the unfortunate thing about this setup, because even if we had Dracula Mihawk, going for Mihawk last turn wouldn't have been that ideal, because the most you're going to do is get rid of a Haruta, an Izo, and then tuck a Kingdu, which you can
Mhm.
already do with the effect of 3000 Worlds. Oh, and there we see the 3000 Worlds bouncing the Izo back to the bottom of the deck. Sadly, the Kingdu already attacked, so it's not as valuable to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And then you cannot target Ace with that effect.
Yeah.
So a little unideal to see it in the life there, but hey, better than nothing, I suppose.
Mhm. Didn't want Izo to be an attacker. We're gonna attack 9 at life again with the ace. We're gonna take that.
Yeah.
Um,
We're prioritizing not using our blocker until we absolutely have to, because we just want the other attacker to be able to go in. And taking the last life, and the biggest pass we've ever seen for Dawn up. This is
oh
maybe nightmares
wow!
for Dofi. They were dominating the whole entire game, but this could be the turn where they have to make or break now, and all they have is 2 attacks to do it. Potentially 3 with the Perona, but
15K.
that's a little. It's I would not recommend
Oh
that.
man. So is it 5 cards in hand? Do you just full send? I kind of just
Eight
full.
eight
Or
on
is it?
Dofi, save 2 behind for Kuma,
Mhm.
right? Like, that's what you have to
Well,
do.
isn't 6? I think 614 is better than just 115.
Yeah, exactly. I would do 8 on uh no, you're right. I would make Dofi 14,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess here we're doing 10.
Yeah.
Guard points and a 2K is all it is, right? That's just 10, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Saying
Uh-oh.
you better have another guard point and a 2K is
No, that's
when
not
you
good
have
enough. Oh, but
3.
they were
Wait.
blanks.
They were no, I think
It's
it's
3.
just
Yeah, no, that's enough because it's
I
3.
think isn't the 5-drop marker a 1K?
Yeah, so
Yeah, so that's just 1K, 1K, 0. So, yeah, not enough.
yeah, so that got it. So
Yeah, they're
14.
talking about the 3000 Worlds play that we mentioned, having that be, like, maybe a more consistent option the turn before, but yeah, good play by Dofi all around. I think they just did what I think would be considered the more risky strategy for going for a lethal turn,
With
but it
3
worked out for
life,
them,
I
which is
don't think it
great.
was too risky, right? Like you were I guess the risk was like them playing blockers. If they had played 2 Fossas or even a single Fossa, that would have been game right there for Doflamingo.
So
And
I'm a very, very fearful player in every game that I play. And
mhm.
whenever I do anything that basically goes, I have to now win on the next turn, is a little scary. And so when you give your opponent a full board of dudes that can swing into you next turn, to where you probably have to take most of them and go to 0 or even 1 life, you're basically saying, okay, your board is now too big for me to control, and I have to win this turn, where previously I actually had a couple of turns to win. And instead of like prioritizing that advantage and staying ahead, I chose to just accelerate the tempo of the game and
Mhm.
go, next turn, I'm going to try to go for game. Hopefully it is.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it was. So good job to Dofi using all that advantage to the best of their ability. They were able to kind of dictate the tempo, and that was pretty cool. I think
Yeah.
that was only one of the games of the 3 that are currently being played. Currently, couldn't get Richard Yam is 1 up, I believe, against
Yeah.
Polly to the Moon. I believe the 2 other matchups are still going on. We'll check in once we know more, but definitely good to see a non-red deck. Definitely good to see a non-red deck taking the
Win.
victory, always showing off the very
That's
very
one of Dofi's
expectations.
best matchups, right? Like that's the reason why Dofi's so like played nowadays because it has a solid Whitebeard matchup, and something like a 3v3 tournament allows you to just do well. Like, all right, like you can lose your bad matchups, but as long as you get paired into Whitebeard, that's your win, and then you're having your team carry you, or you're carrying your team on the other
Yeah,
side.
those early turns were so strong for Dofi. The amount of advantage that was being netted turn after turn was just impossible for Whitebeard to keep up with. And all the aggression was
Yeah.
super huge because if we weren't at 0 life, the turn we swung in for 12 with Dofi, it was going to be so tough to force enough cards out of their hand to the point
Mhm.
where our risky play to go for game the following turn would have ever worked out.
No, I agree, and I always advertise that, like, the early aggressive plays are very powerful against Whitebeard. Forcing them to take life early really ruins them for, like, the later games. It puts them at 0 life way sooner than they anticipate, and then it doesn't allow them to establish the aggression they want early enough because now they have to play defensively because now they're gonna be at 0 life way earlier than they wanted, which lets
Mhm.
you if it like we saw, they didn't have a blocker on board, so what did Dofi do? They just put as much Dawn under the leader and said, "All right, just give me your whole hand." 2 turns in a row, and that was enough.
Definitely always good to see the sort of wombo victories that happen in One Piece a lot. And oh, I think we just got confirmation that there was a Zoro mirror match during round 5 right now, and Team Richard couldn't get Richard Yam is victorious because the Dofi player and their Zoro player won.
Nice. So, we're actually what was that, 5 for 5? Every match we've streamed, the team won. The stream that won is the team that won.
That's right. And now we're just going to probably wait to hear back from the rest of the matches before we get on to round 6. But I think we'll go ahead and take a little bit of a break, you guys, and come back to you when we have that ready to go. So see you then.
Buddy, to the One Piece card game 3v3 tournament hosted here in Pennsylvania, Monroeville. I'm your host, Reese the Squirrel, co-hosted with Steven Rodriguez, true champion Steven himself. How you doing, Steven?
I'm doing good, and I'm ready for potentially the last round of the tournament. This is round 6, y'all. We have officially 3 undefeateds teams, which means Table 1, which you're about to see right now, is 2 undefeateds, and Table 2 has a down pair. If the undefeated player team at Table 2 loses, this will be the final round. So you could potentially be seeing the winning match. And I believe we have returning our blue player from last round, our Dofi player, and we have a starter deck Luffy, which I believe is the red one, not the black one.
It is
Now
the
we have
red
to
one,
say
yep.
that just to be a bit clearer.
Yeah, no, it will be the red one. Starter deck Luffy, like definitely a deck that I remember back in set one, it was a real neck and neck race with when it came to Zoro versus Luffy. Zoro took the early lead. Everyone really loved the early aggression that Zoro could pull off. But as people learned how to play One Piece and how to properly attack for the correct numbers in the One Piece card game, it became very obvious that Luffy was a little better if you played more for a mid range to late game play style, and just being able to not only play a card, any card, and then also guarantee a 6K attack. That number always coming up. Being able to at least guarantee a 6K attack on your opponent every turn, demanding either a 2K or an extra card. Like Luffy was just very powerful. And then in set two, Zoro got access to a couple more cards and really started taking off. Luffy wasn't too far behind, but it definitely felt like once to set three, it's like Zoro just is the forerunner when it comes to red decks from that earlier meta. But
Yeah. Never count Luffy out because having the ability to double dip on your usage of Dawn, both as an aggressive tool and as a tool to actually build your board and create advantage, is so strong. And you're right, like a late game Luffy deck back in set one, even to today, if you can survive long enough, can just gain so much more tempo and aggression and value over time. It's like a similar style to Dofi in that way, where every turn you get an extra Dawn on top of whatever you had to play character cards for during your turn is so huge. How do you think this matchup between Dofi and Luffy will shake out today? Because we've seen a lot of Whitebeard, we've seen a lot of Zoro and Law decks, but I honestly can't tell you what a OPO3 Luffy decks looks like. Is it Whitebeard Pirates? Is it
yeah, I
Hats?
don't know.
Just
From
like good
so
stuff red? I don't really know.
No, yeah, it's so they play more of like they want to curve out because it's a lot like Whitebeard. That I don't think they're as committed to one side or the other. I think it's more in between Strawbeards now. You try to just play. I imagine you just try to play like you curve out like Whitebeard wants to, but you also get the advantage of being able to put the extra Dawn where you want. You get the extra advantage of just being able, just because you're not so committed to the Whitebeard side, you also get access to the Straw Hat side, and that be making your Rad Beam searchable, making your pistols searchable, making your guard points searchable. So you have all the same defenses that Whitebeard has with all the consistency that Zoro has for their options. It's just a good deck. I know I have a few friends that play the straw hat uh the straw hat Luffy starter deck. But it's typically a meta call, kind of like Dofi, in the way that Dofi, like people play Dofi because it has a really good Zoro to Whitebeard matchup, and it has a really good Luffy to Zoro match or red matchup, and so does Luffy. People play Luffy because it's good against Zoro and against Whitebeard, but it has a hard time against some of the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting word that the our opponents here have to re-sleeve their decks because we're in the middle of a deck check. So we're gonna be a little longer into the next game, so we can carry on to what's next in the OPTCG world, which next week's pre-release. Right,
Mm-hmm.
we have OP04 coming out, introducing Dofi, Rebecca. You want to take us in, Steven?
Yeah, OPO4 is going to be super exciting. I know we have pre-releases starting next week. If anyone out there has any like local game stores near them that are hosting the events, be sure you stop by and get your chance to win that promo yellow Luffy coming out for the pre-release winners. Or if you don't, be sure to check out the Bandai TCG Plus app to see what stores will be having these pre-releases going on in your area, because pre-releases for One Piece are always a blast. And these new cards, the sooner you can get your hands on them, the better, right?
Yeah, and I mean, oh man, like everyone. I think that we've said it before. I've said it again. The two forerunners of the format, or people are believing, like people are really excited about the Doflamingo deck being able to combine both green and purple film engines for the first time in a deck. In a single deck is going to be very valuable. And then Rebecca being the most, the strongest deck in people's minds, introducing a whole new engine with the Dressrosa package, having a dual color leader that's 5 health but can attack, but you have so many tools to give your attack your characters either rush or like the defensive ability that Kairos has. Just having a 5k body on board that is really difficult to remove. On top of just like a crazy blue top end, the crazy blue top end they will be getting with Red Rock, the Dressrosa Luffy, the gear, I think it's gear 4th Luffy.
Mhm.
Very powerful. And then there's also the side stuff. Have you like Queen? A lot of people are talking about Queen. A lot of people are talking about Crocodile in the next format, and you yourself with Blue.
Yeah, in general, I'm a big fan of blue for set 4, but also I think green and yellow will kind of be on that come up every now and then. Weirdly, I don't see a lot of people talking about any red decks, besides the craziness that we've been seeing in OPO3 and OPO2 of red's domination of the format ever since Whitebeard came out. I don't know if there's anything too exciting coming for them in OPO4 besides like maybe VV and like some like Alabasta shenanigans.
Some Straw
Um,
Hat stuff, maybe. But yeah, no, I agree with you.
But yeah, overall, I think OPO4 is going to be a super cool splash of not only new dominating threats like Don Quixote and Rebecca, but just also an influx of brand new waves of support based on the One Piece IP that we just haven't seen before. And that's going to be super exciting. And something I also want to remind everyone at home about is, as we're super excited to potentially have the last round of today's 3v3 Monroeville main event, we also have side events going on tomorrow that we'll be also streaming here for Choppers,
Oh,
as well
true.
as a box break and live giveaway for anyone who's lucky enough out there to use the exclamation point giveaway command tomorrow and get their chance to win those beautiful cards. So
Yeah, that
definitely
is
always keep that stuff in
that
mind
is
too.
something we're not advertising a lot right now, or enough, I should say, right? Like we're giving away a box of OPO3 just in time to wrap up anybody's collections that they need to get before OPO4 comes out. There's a lot of cards in OPO3 that people still need. I myself am still lacking playsets of a rare here and there that I'm gonna need for next set. So getting a box for free, yeah, exclamation mark giveaway, would be good. And back to us. Yeah, so like back to what I was saying. Yeah, Dofi, like both Dofi and Luffy people play them as the meta call, right? They
Mhm.
play it because they believe like it is a good matchup. It's a Whitebeard being the best deck, and Zoro also being one of the best decks. So we're gonna get into it. They're done resleeving, and we're just gonna shuffle into it. So what do you think? What's your opinions on Luffy?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, I was told this earlier, but the player on the right playing Luffy is Russell Lepar, who, as you can see, is a serial Luffy winner. He's hoping to, after winning this game and/or potentially losing this match, maybe even adding another one to his collection. And I don't know, there's just something about staring down a serial Luffy that someone's actually using that I'm sure will be putting fear into the opponent that is Dofi. This matchup, I don't really have a lot of opinions on it because I haven't really tested it that much since set one. But if it's anything similar to what we've been seeing, I think the game plan of Dofi is going to be aggressive in the beginning and then really focusing on trying to curve out into your powerful Mihawks and control tools to just dominate the board and win the game. And the thing that Luffy has over basically Whitebeard in that kind of game plan is you're more stable with your life cards because you're not always losing life every single turn. You can actually protect yourself and keep that life nice and healthy into those later turns and have your powerful late game plays actually matter because again, both these decks like going into a long game because of how much advantage they can produce, but they're both also very aggressive decks when they want to be, and they can end the game as quickly as they can depending on how their opponent defends themselves. Here we see
A quick
Russell, aka
mulligan from
Luffy, going
Luffy.
for a mulligan.
Yeah.
Gonna be excited to see here. But Dofi's like, I have my Perona. I'm
That's
pretty
all
sure
we
he's going
need.
first. We're good to go. No more thought required.
Yeah, that's all you need. You just want to set up that the first one, maybe two if you're lucky, Doflamingo effects, and you're off to the races after that, right?
Ooh, and I think I just saw a flash of the Whitebeard engine being in the Luffy deck. Makes complete sense to me. That package has proven time and time again today, even how strong it is. I think maybe maximizing your chances for seeing the 9-drop Whitebeard as well is going to be super cool. I think we're also
Mhm.
seeing some extra information there. It's either the Whitebeard Pirates option, sorry, event
Yeah, I
card,
think
or it's Fiery Doll.
it's one of the ace cards. I think it's Fiery Doll. Yep, and they choose to take it.
Very powerful card. Really good against Whitebeard or any kind of deck where you want to have a big late game push, but not commit nearly as much Dawn.
And then we're just going to turn one Perona as we anticipated. Going to be able to stack up the deck quite nicely. Going into hopefully there's at least one hit that we can guarantee for our next turn. Choose our draw and then choose what character will play off of the Doflamingo. But just a couple early setup turns. Fiery Doll will probably be pretty relevant. 2 Dawn to make your leader 4K or 4K stronger is just infinitely efficient, right? And then with Luffy, it's actually 5K when you think about it because you could
That's
use
right.
that Dawn anyway.
Like it just goes back to that like mentality we've been seeing all day of part two of part one of most games is aggro as much as possible, and then part two is defend as much as possible. If you can aggro more efficiently in the late game with cards like Fiery Doll, it can really help guarantee you wins that you otherwise probably wouldn't have gotten because of all the defense players are saving in the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you
Yeah.
can trick your opponent into being like, oh, the most you have next turn is 20,000 power instead of 15,000 power, that's a big, big difference.
That's huge difference. And we're gonna play Robin. So
That's
I'm not
Nico Robin.
expecting too many weenies from the Doflamingo side. So I wonder how much value this Robin would get. I know we probably play some Brooks. I know the Luffy's that I've seen really like playing Brook. I believe it's the one from the set that I on when attacking with one Dawn minus 2K, 2 characters, and then comboing with Robin to KO whatever you subtracted. But it doesn't look like they have the Brook in hand. So this Robin might kind of be not getting the value we want to see. Oh, well, we're going to search for something right now. And we get a second Robin.
So I could see Russell going for a play like use Luffy ability, have Robin swing into Kuma, get rid of Perona, see if the opponent has the Pacifista in hand, so that way you can maybe respond with a Jet Pistol or some other form of removal that you have in your hand. We see the Pacifista in Dofi's hand, but I do think it's advantageous for them to protect this and either force more attacks into it,
Yeah.
/ make it to where maybe baiting our opponent into thinking we don't have Pacifista and then surprising it with them, surprising it to them after they've committed more Dawn to the point where their removal isn't a possibility anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
So
We're going to
I've
attack into the Pacifista again.
I could see another protection here. Again, Dofi really loves keeping its character cards in play as often as possible, but I could see a lot of aggression coming out of Luffy right now, especially if we have like a Rush Zoro. But there's the Makino. This is going to be so powerful with the Izo already in play, delivering just another 5k swing into that Kuma. Hey, if it
Might
was
as well
worth
make
2
it 6
cards,
at
is
this
it worth
point,
3
right?
cards?
I think we're gonna go in for 6, right?
I
Or
I think
I
it's
feel like that's the play, right? Or
I
no?
think it's it depends on what we want to play afterwards. If we want to
Mhm.
bluff like a Rush Zoro or hang on to a second copy of Nico Robin or something, it depends. But we're just gonna swing
Okay.
5 into Kuma here. We have the Pacifista. We do have a plenty of 1Ks in hand, so it's totally possible just to protect this as well. I'm not
Uh,
sure if it becomes diminishing returns at this point. Definitely
we've
tough to
already given up
see.
2 cards. Yeah.
And because you get the guaranteed body of Pacifista anyway, you're still losing a card in hand, but you're gaining a 6k body instead of a 5k body.
And we're
But
gonna
yeah,
let
we're
it
just going
go,
to
yeah.
use the on-K effect to play Pacifista. This one's potentially safe. And then we just play another Nico Robin. That board is really wide and very, very strong. The most we can get rid of is 2 cards. Maybe, oh, we just drew a 3,000 Worlds for turn, which could be super huge. I
Nice.
could totally see like a 6k swing into Nico Robin, a 5k swing into Makino, and then a 3,000 Worlds on the other Nico Robin being a big, big tempo advantage for Dofi. But the thing they have to keep in mind is their 5 cards. Do they know that that's a play they can make? Otherwise, are they potentially sacrificing all their Dofi triggers for the rest of the couple of turns by doing that play, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Sometimes if you don't see the 7 Warlords cards and you stack them in the perfect order of, okay, draw a card, 7 Warlords, draw a card, 7 Warlords, it can actually make turns like this really awkward.
Yeah, and we're opting not to Dofi effect here, like you said.
Yeah,
We're
because
gonna
we need to play 3,000 Worlds to get rid of Nico Robin, right? It's
yeah.
just too powerful of a card that'll create too much advantage.
Yeah, I agree. And if Luffy ever sees any of their DP reduction spells, the Nico Robin's just gonna go to the races now. So we're gonna go to our 7 Dawn turn for 7 Dawn turn for Luffy.
This could be a
Um
5-drop Luffy turn. It could be a just set up the board turn.
yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of low drops here, but I'm also seeing a
Yeah, they
Gordon
got
in
a Gordon.
hand
They have a Gordon
with a
and they
Marco.
have a Marco.
So that's a
So
perfect combo right there.
that's actually pretty gross if they can pull it. Like, is it worth though? Is it worth to Gordon and oh, they're gonna do it. 2-card combo to get rid of the only 6k body on the board. I guess
So
that's
it's
worth.
worth in the sense that it's kind of the only thing this hand can do. Otherwise, all this hand
Mhm.
does is fiery doll and attack, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So there we have the 6k swing, getting rid of the 2k. There we have a 1-drop Makino coming down, letting us swing 5k with our Nami.
Yeah. And we're gonna take that life.
And
And
then we just
now
go boom,
now
Marco.
yeah, now like we attacked the Luffy into the Pacifista and we baited a card out of our opponent's hand just to run with our game plan anyway. So we essentially got an extra card for no we just plussed an extra card, right?
And we're and only being on 8 Dawn Heroes Dofi means Mihawk is not a possibility to punish this Marco. So our board of weenie 1-drops is going to be dominating and creating so much pressure. And as you can see here, Luffy is sitting at a clean 4 life to Dofi's 3 life. We're ahead on board presence and ahead on defensive and offensive tempo, which is right where you want to be in most situations. 7k into Makino just to get the proc of
Yeah,
Dofi. I believe that's
you
the
have to get rid
blocker
of the
one.
Mach, you know. It's giving too much value to this Nami and the Izo. And going
So
for
it's so
Nami
funny
doesn't
to
do
swing
nothing.
7k into a 0 powered card. It's so funny.
Oh yeah, no, it feels so it feels so bad. But like getting the free Doflamingo off the top, it's just too valuable. Now we're gonna set up the rest of the top of the deck. Looks like we're definitely gonna keep all of them to the top with the Doflamingo.
Yep. Looks like we're setting up a Love Mellow to draw on the next turn. And I think what we're going to end our turn with is a Boa Hancock blocker plus a Dawn attachment to it to get an extra draw on the opponent's turn. We have now entered what I would call the mid game for
Mhm.
this match. Very grindy, very resource battly. Dofi has a lot of ways to gain advantage back. But at this point, it might be hard to keep whatever advantage they've already created because of the potential removal that Luffy has access to being a red deck. And if Luffy wanted to on the next turn,
Mhm.
like Russell can just go like attach Don to Nami, attack with it for 5, attack with Luffy, attack with Marco, play nothing else, and just increase his hand size and go your turn. because at this point he's not really feeling the pressure to do anything else.
Right, because I mean, now that the Doflamingo has to rebuild their board, they're in a position where like Luffy has characters, and any free bodies that Doflamingo will get come in rested, which makes them very attackable, which makes them just targets for Luffy to constantly attack into and remove. But you don't have to go for life yet. Well, there's no reason to. You're not on a clock like you are Whitebeard. So you can just freely take out whatever cards that the Doflamingo wants to give you, and if they want to give you hand size for it, all the better. Because as long as you can actually play the start game at this point. And it looks like we're gonna play Perona. Did we tap? No, we don't. We haven't tapped anything.
Gecko Moria.
Gecko Moria. Okay. Yeah.
There's another 6K body.
Yeah.
It's the 4-drop Gecko Moria that adds a card back to hand. Cool. Adding its 7 Warlords back. It's a 5K body. Very nice, actually. Yeah. Keeping up that card advantage in hand is very, very important.
Yeah. Sometimes people tap rest their Dawn first and then play the character, or play the character and then the Dawn. And so I was getting a little looped up in that. And then we play another Ezo, search 5. I imagine we're just searching for
is that 9-drop Whitebeard?
I think that's right. 9-drop Whitebeard, yeah. It's it's Fire Fist. It's actually Fire Fist.
It's Ultra Fire Fist. Nice. That could be really good here, actually, right? Because these are 5 and 4K, right?
Oh yeah, it's actually perfect if they have. We know they have the Fiery Doll, so depending on how aggressive they could just clear the board. That probably is just the play.
Yeah, like clear the board, give like 2 or 3 Dawn to Nami, swing 5/5/7. Just seems super solid to me.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's so good. Fiery Doll is so strong. And I think that's a card that Whitebeard can't afford to play, which is also why you see this matchup kind of play a little differently. Like I'm sure some Whitebeards play Fire Fist, but they typically need those option cards to defend. Like it's really hard for them to just say goodbye to a guard point or a radical beam.
So I really like what Russell's doing right here. He's not committing any of the Dawn he needs to. He's doing what we talked about earlier, which is attacking with the cards that require the least amount of Dawn to be pressuring first. Because what you're going to do is force a lot of cards out of the hand to now where 5K swings are so valuable. Because 3 cards in hand, I'm going to get rid of a third of your hand with every swing now. Or you're going to take a life. Very, very powerful. We're going to leave 2 Dawn up, maybe bluffing the Gum Gum Red Hawk, or just use it for nothing because we don't need to. We've done everything we needed to this turn. That's also something Luffy can do really, really well because you're so Dawn efficient. You can just do whatever you need to. Paying 2 for, what is that, a Sanji?
It's a Sanji. It's
all these max rarity cards. Russell, I'm not used to seeing this much bling. It's blinding.
It's a lot. I think it's I want to say it's the 2K counter one. So we just played it to just get another body on board and probably just go for game next turn.
Yeah, we have literally 1 card in hand as Luffy, but 5 characters in play against a 0 character and 2 life Dofi. We're feeling really good right now if we're Russell, if we're the Luffy player.
Yeah, this is also the Sanji that can take the life too. So you can it's the one that lets you take the life when you activate it.
7K swing, yeah.
Yeah, and then that allows you to I remember in early One Piece, like people would play this card just to say I get to draw my own life, like kind of like in a Whitebeard-esque way. Like my hand will now be bigger because you haven't been attacking me, so I'm kind of like hand starved. So this Sanji gets me out of being a little hand starved since you haven't been attacking my life.
Super strong effect for sure. There we got the AK swing into the Marco. Going to be paying the 1 to play a Boa Hancock. Very nice. Gonna let the Marco die. Going to probably not use the on KO effect because I believe the card in our hand is another copy of Marco. So we're like, I can just play this one next turn. I'm in no rush.
Yeah, and I'll play another Boa. We're gonna leave 2 up for the level of beam that we know is in hand. Level of mellow.
Yeah, being forced to go 8 there to get the magic number against the Marco kind of is not great because you don't get to put that Dawn on your Boa Hancock to get that powerful draw on block. But you can always use it next turn when you attack with it if you really needed to. So always depends on how the turn.
Now we know we have. This is gonna be too much for Luffy.
This is gonna be a crazy turn. Depending on what card we drew for turn, if we drew a way to like reduce. Oh, did we just draw a Jet Pistol? No, that's Fiery Doll, I think.
I think it's a Fiery Doll, but we still have no. I'm confusing myself now. I thought he had a Whitebeard in hand. He drew the Fire Fist. Confused us.
That is Pistol. That's so huge. Yeah, Pistol, just get rid of the blocker. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
And now now you can use Sanji's effect, make him a 7k attacker, use Luffy's effect, make your Nami a more efficient attacker. Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, this is gonna be
this
so
is so
strong.
huge.
We're gonna
Depending on
take
what card we
2.
drew, though, it could be a different play too.
Yeah, so this is gonna be a 7K attacker. Do you go for life or do you just try to take out the boa now?
Given the board state, you don't have the best attackers to follow up the Sanji with. We're gonna swing 9 into Boa here to play around the obvious Love Love Mellow in hand.
Mhm.
Very
Yeah,
heads up there. We actually have 2
absolutely.
Love Love Mellows in hand, actually.
Ooh,
So we could stop this attack.
but do we want to?
We definitely cannot stop the next one if we do, is my
Yeah,
point. So may as well save it for the defensive plays that you have.
absolutely. All right,
Woo.
so Luffy attack 5. Gonna 1K out of that. We are just running out of hand, but Luffy's playing an immaculate grind game here. Just
7k Nami. Oh, the best Luffy play ever.
oh
I
my
love the
god.
7k Nami play. Ever since Luffy came out, it's been one of my favorite decks in set 1 to play and just in
Mhm,
general to watch play because you almost always reach a point like this with Luffy where you've won the board against your opponent because Red is super efficient at doing that. And now
mhm.
you can make all these weenies just really powerful, efficient attackers. And sure, Zoro is better at doing that faster. It's harder to do it while also doing so many other things like playing Jet Pistol, like having powerful
Yeah.
cards like Sanji, like having powerful things like Marco just constantly harassing your opponent's board. Uh, Plus, it's Luffy, it's the boy.
Yeah, he is the main character of the franchise. He's got the straw hat. No, I think that was a big problem early One Piece, and even in set 2, that would frustrate me a lot, is people did not value these weenies as possible attackers enough. Like, a lot of the times, a lot like, the tempo game just revolves around how many attacks do I have and when do I have them? Right now, he said, "I have this Nami attack available. Let's just instead of wasting it, do we what should I say? Instead of, not attacking and developing a separate body, just use this attack now and then make my opponent like attack into it or threaten it next turn. Like just use all the attacks available to you. And a lot of people don't do that, and we're seeing it happen here and to great effect.
Now, I see we're going for a Don Quixote. I believe we stacked another copy of Mellow on top, so we can actually chain these together, given that we have 4 Don active, which, given that our opponent's board is just 3 1-drops and a Luffy, that's actually pretty cool. I know we're talking about Luffy dominating this board state and creating so much tempo, but we have a blocker in play, plus a Kuma on board, and the potential for double Love Mellow this turn. Dofi's
Mhm.
not out of this just yet. The amount of
No.
advantage he's been able to constantly recuperate every single turn, despite the outward power of every single card Luffy's thrown down, is so huge.
All right. 5K
5k
attack
into
to
Kuma.
Kuma.
Oh, baby. And we draw the Love Mellow just to get the extra card and protect and say, okay, go ahead, do it again. This is where the weenies become really tough. Like attacking with one weenie is fine, but having to commit potentially 9 Dawn to make all these weenies be able to actually deal damage, that can be a lot, especially with if you're Luffy not playing any cards for turn. And we have just got confirmation that at table 2, the down pair lost, which means
Oh, so
this
this is
is
for
now
it.
the finals of the tournament,
Oh, that's
Luffy
really
versus
exciting.
Dofi, which is very fun. And notice how no games for either team have finished yet. We're still
Oh.
all playing. And oh my gosh, I thought we chained Love Mellows, but we put the Pacifista on
Yeah,
top to
dude.
play around the potential for Jet Pistol and or KOing our Kuma. That
That
is
was
so big
so
brain from the Dofi
sick.
player.
Oh man, that's so insane. And
That is awesome. I
had
love
Luffy
everything about that.
played, oh man, that's so good.
And just like that, we have swung the advantage back in our favor as
Yeah,
Dovey. We're using the Gecko Moria's effect to add back a 7 Warlords. I think we're just mathing out if we have the ability to use Boa plus our Love Mellow in hand. We're going to
and
have
we do.
Pacifista swing at this Nami, and there you go. I
And the
said
board is
Red was
back.
really good at winning board. I never said they were good at keeping board, guys. They're really good at winning board than winning the game. But just like this, Dofi has lived long enough to go, I now have my defensive wall. Can you break through quick enough? Or
Wow.
am I going to be able to snowball back into this game? This is getting
Wow.
intense.
Man, do you think Luffy should have been going for life all this time then with how this is playing out? Like I feel like, a lot of these sideways characters have become like essentially like blockers, right? And
That's
eating up
right.
a lot of these swings over turns, sure, like you didn't get the body. Like sure, like sometimes you don't want to get the body off the board, but you're sitting at 3 life. It was 4 at one point when like you actually took your own life at some point, and I would love to know if like had those attacks gone into life instead, could you be winning on this turn instead?
So my thing is, I think both players have been playing this very, very well. This is the
Mhm.
best case scenario for the Dofi player. Like, I would say the one thing that kind of was unfortunate about this game was that Russell or the Luffy player wasn't able to draw any big bombs for like the last
Right.
previous 2 turns, right? Because he was forced to on the last turn only attack with his 1 drops, which committed way too much and
Mhm.
essentially did give a free turn over to the Dofi player with as little pressure as possible. Because while yes, those cards can deal life card damage, they're not as hard to deal with and they
Yeah.
put a lot less pressure overall on your hand. And here we have the Marco coming down. Here we have the Ezo becoming a 6K attacker into Gecko Moria, right? Because if you want to force the level of Mellow, you can. You're going to on block, use what's it called, Boa, and then you're going to use the Mihawk 2K counter to protect it from the 6K swing. This Dofi player has been managing his resources very well, and the fact that he
To
didn't go
life,
for that
yeah.
chain of Love Mellow is proven right now to be the best play for him because it's just created so many
Yeah,
more
now he's
plays
got
with
a
him.
6K body that's gonna be, going for board every time, or play
There we have
Piranha
Corona
card,
again.
reset our Doflamingo for the turn, guarantee that we're gonna get something off this attack if we go for it, which I don't see why we wouldn't. Looks like we're like, there's a vanilla Gecko Moria going to the top, so it's gonna be another 6K body pressuring our opponent. We could I see a Jinbei. I think they're planning it out to be next turn, like the next turn's Doflamingo effect. So this turn we'll get the 6K Moria from the top, Mihawk to the bottom. I don't think we're in a position where we want to see Mihawk regardless.
Yeah, Mihawk is definitely not needed right now. These cards are not as threatening as maybe other potential cards, and we're definitely not that close to winning the game as Moria. Obviously, our board is crazy and it can help us get there,
Mhm.
but Luffy has enough life and it's a red deck, so there's total possibilities for it to swing back the tempo in its favor. Here we're gonna attack with the Boa into the Ezo to get the free draw because we have 5 or less cards in our hand on attack, and
Yep.
again, just mitigating as much board as possible.
Oh,
And we just
drawing the
and
card
we
with
just
the
have
top.
no reason to attack the life if we're being
Mhm.
100% honest. We just do not have to. Debating swinging 6 here. I think 5 is just fine. It 2
Mhm.
cards in hand, one of them's probably an event card, no all tapped out. It's fine.
I think Luffy's in a position where they're just kind of finding the Whitebeard. I don't see why they wouldn't be playing it. Whitebeard would change the game for them.
Well, there's only one of it in the deck. And
Right.
oh my goodness, is that Soge King? What is that?
I think that's oh no, it's starter deck Doflamingo. It's the
Starter
wanted poster.
deck Doflamingo
Yeah.
coming down. It's the wanted poster bouncing the Marco back to hand, and Russ just goes, "Yep, I'm a scoop. That's it, boss. You got it."
Oh, dang. Oh, right. So that's it for that game.
And it's it for and oh my gosh, just like that. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. So apparently I think the Whitebeard player on Team Sock won their third game.
So it
Which
comes
means
down to
both
the
teams are now
Whitebeard
one
versus
and
Zoro.
one, and there's a potential for couldn't get Richard Yam or Sock to win. I think
Oh,
the deciding game will be the Zoro versus Whitebeard match in the middle. Yep, middle
that's
match will decide the championship. And and you notice both players here are just crossing their